the tape, let's grind. Shut up, the tape, let's grind. The tape. We do it a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play, shut up and grind the tape.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, shut up and grind the tape.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, them dogs in your face. Shut up, grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape. Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up, grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
The tape.
UGA game day, boy, we ball out. Pull up, put the whole conference in the doghouse. Leave them 6 feet, see me on the win streak. All-star status, go coach, and the bench deep. Right. Offense on 10, how we run it? Your best ain't nothing, we gon' send them boys punting. Yep. Black and red, got them dead on arrival. Defense, hunker down for the tie. Hey, you don't want it with the dogs. Film guy on it, you don't want it with my dog. Break it down, play by play, that's the day-to-day. Yeah. They know we ain't come to play, boy, it's UGA. Right. Kirby Smart, I cannot play the fool. Back to back, we did not come to lose. Back to back, like we got something to prove. Pay your dues, dog nation on the move. What's up?
We do it a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play, shut up and grind the tape.
The tape.
We ain't gonna play, them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, shut up and grind the tape.
Shut up. Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The
Shut
tape.
up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
Shut up. The tape.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guy Network on a fabulous Monday evening. We got a loaded show for you guys tonight. Too loaded, so loaded, there's not even an open. I do see some stuff in the comments because apparently our intro music is banging. Like, people just love it. And here's what I'm going to tell you. That is produced not in-house, but by a listener of the show, DJology. Okay, he's the producer of that. I don't know who the talent is that's actually rapping and singing in that. There is some of yours truly cut up and doing some ad-libs in the back of that. No, I did not go into the booth. That is just tremendous production by my man DJology. But here's the thing I want to tell you. It's out and available on Spotify. It has been since the day it dropped. So just search The Film Guy. Hold on. I don't know what the actual name of the song is, but just search The Film Guy on Spotify. It'll pop up. So yeah, go ahead and shut up and grind that tape. You can, I think that's actually what it's called, Shut Up and Grind, over there on Spotify. So yeah, shout out to those guys for making that. Shout out to you guys for being here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. I'm gonna handle business up front. We normally put this in after an open and after the first segment, but I'm gonna go ahead and hammer it. Make sure you're supporting those who support us. We are brought to you tonight by our friends over at BetUS. If you're looking for a new book this season, you're already late, but you need to head over there. BetUS is the place to be. Fastest withdrawal and deposit process in the industry. If you use promo code YouTube150, you get a 150% deposit match up to $2,000 on your first time deposit, 125% deposit match on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000. Over there, again, using promo code YouTube150, we moved to 13-7 this year on best bets. I have to go back and see what we did on the locks this past weekend, but I think we cashed 2 for 1 over there on BetUS. Again, promo code YouTube150. Make sure you're supporting those who support us. Boys, how we doing today?
Doing fantastic.
Doing good, man.
How are you doing?
You know, I'm like 15 hours of sleep over the last 72. So we're okay, though. We're hammering it down. We're into the second cup of coffee for the day, and we're going to hammer this show. We're going to have a great show. I feel no doubts about that.
You only gotten 15 hours of sleep over 3 days?
Yeah, 5 hours. 5 hours over the last 3. It's not terrible.
It's not horrible.
Yeah, it's not awful. You know, some of these away trips, I feel like we get 12 hours over the weekend. So,
Yeah.
you know, we're good. We're rolling through. But, yeah, definitely going to try to get some sleep tonight before tomorrow's, big birthday extravaganza, which will be filled with work. I think we're going to go 2 film studies tomorrow.
Heck yeah.
Hell yeah,
That's the best way to celebrate.
It is. I've always been one of those people that's like, after your 16th birthday, maybe the 21st birthday,
Yeah.
it's another work day, brother.
16th.
Get your ass up and go to work.
16, 21, 18. After that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, nah. Get your butt up and go to work. It is not that special of a day. Week 12 reactions. Let's get right into it. Oregon squeaks by. What'd you think, Kirb? I gave my rundown a little bit yesterday.
I thought that Oregon was kind of past this, and when I looked up, because obviously this game was going on at the same time Georgia Tennessee was, it was like, wait, Oregon's losing? Oh, it's the third quarter and they're still losing? What's going on here? I honestly thought Oregon had kind of righted the ship early on. It seems like more so than ever, and we talked about this throughout past weeks, any team is gettable this season, and Oregon almost got by a Wisconsin team that they are far superior than.
To me, Oregon's offense is predicated off of like a really, really good wide zone offensive running game. All right, but really an explosive passing attack. Like they're at their best when they're hitting deep shots down the field. And when I just box score scout this football game, I don't even have to look at this film, to be honest with you. When I box score scout this game, I know that they had inconsistencies in their vertical passing game. When you see a Dylan Gabriel stat line that sees 22 completions for 218 yards, that's not Oregon football. That's not what Oregon's football has been since Dan Lanning has been there. When they complete passes deep downfield and at a high rate as well. So that was the offensive inefficiency in this football game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was watching this game via the PA announcer at Stanford Stadium.
Hell yeah.
I was getting updates periodically throughout the game. We get a score update. Even when Oregon was losing, though, it was one of these classics of Oregon's going to find a way. Dan Lanning and this football team is going to find a way to make sure that they don't lose this game. But they were due. And I think we said that going into the weekend of Oregon, kind of one of the only teams remaining where they're due for another stinker down the stretch. And you got one. You got one against Wisconsin. You got a tight one. But the most important one is you did win that football game. You remain with your perfect record. And you're in a perfect spot to where if you go in this conference championship in the Big Ten, you can afford a loss and you can win and you'll be in this playoff.
Yep. I think again, you're at a point in the season now where if you're one of these teams, just get the W. You're at a point now where you have so many games ahead of you and under your belt. Like the Ohio State win is held up just fine. Just keep stacking W's to the end of the season. Get to 12-0, and everything else will be fine. You don't have to worry about that.
Shit, that seems like the motto for everybody in the college football playoff based off the way the committee works now. Strength of schedule don't matter. Just be undefeated.
Yep.
Just play a bunch of nobodies. Be undefeated. Get through. We'll let you in.
Be a brand and play a bunch of nobodies. Well, you don't even have to be a
You
brand.
got to be a brand. Just play a bunch of nobodies.
Yeah. True.
And make sure you play Ohio State close. You can play the worst 9 teams in the Big Ten. The worst 9 teams in the Big Ten. As long as you lose to Ohio State closely, we'll let you in. That's how we're going to handle this thing this year. So just going to let you know on that one. Did you guys see the coaching moment? Dan's got a coaching moment every single week, it feels like, nowadays. Did you see the coaching moment that we referenced yesterday on the Sunday Reaction Show?
No.
I think I saw like a brief clip of it.
Man, this guy's in his bag, Christian.
What's he doing?
This football coach, every single week it feels like he's got something. It was the look around and thumbs down. Are you not entertained? Their last road game.
Gladiator.
Love that one. This week, going to Wisconsin, they're pretty famous at Camp Randall for the jump around at the start of the fourth quarter. It's like one of the biggest, fourth quarter entrances in college football. It's very well talked about. A lot of people talk about how intimidating it is on the road because the whole stadium starts to shake. The ground starts to shake beneath you. 80,000 Wisconsin cheeseheads jumping up and down, rooting for the badge, all right? It's a lot of hectic situations out there. A lot of teams get, a little bamboozled when that type of environment happens. And this moment, as the third quarter transitions to the fourth quarter, happens as Oregon has the ball at midfield, 4th and 9, down 7, 13-6. Really getting boxed for like a good 3 quarters against that Wisconsin football team. All 80,000 fans lose their goddamn mind as the fourth quarter starts. You know what Oregon's sideline's doing?
What?
Probably calm and collected, I'm guessing.
Oregon's sideline is not cold, cool, calm, and collected. Oregon's sideline is losing their damn minds, jumping up and down with the stands.
Oh no!
And
that's even worse.
This is what Dan Lanning's face looks like on the sideline. Dan Lanning has this lunatic smile on his face of, yeah, I prepared them all week for this right here. Wait until you see how my sideline goes. And they go nuts. And guess what they do? 4th and 9, they go right out. They convert the 4th and 9 with a pass play from Dylan Gabriel, and then they win. They win the fourth quarter 10-0, outscore Wisconsin by 10 points in the fourth, walk out of it with a win.
And I think this is perfect because there's another example of this where it did not work out in the other coach's favor, and it truly shows like which coaches are about this type of business and the other ones that are just kind of faking their way through it. I don't know if you saw this, but leading into the Florida game, Brian Kelly told his team that they were going to learn the words to "Won't Back Down" so that when Florida plays in the fourth quarter, Brian Kelly's going to be able to sing along, be in a happy, good mood going into the fourth quarter. And you can see during the game, he is singing along to "Won't Back Down." They ended up losing that game in the fourth quarter. They did not go on and take care of business and actually treat that situation like they wanted to. So here you have Dan Lanning. He's about that business. Brian Kelly probably just faking his way through it a little bit.
Yeah, there is something to be said. We only hear about these Jedi mind tricks when they work. When you take a lightsaber to the throat, we're going to laugh at you.
Yeah, I mean, the get your popcorn ready is one of the most iconic ones where it's like, ooh, that didn't pay off well. Yeah. So, but no, I mean, Dan Lanning is a psycho when it comes to stuff like this. And it's intimidating now because the rest of the college football world is aware of it. So when he's got all of his players bought into it as well, it's like, oh, shit.
Is there a football coach that you want to play for more right now than Dan Lanning? Because I don't. And I know that's a curse around this network.
Oh, God.
But you know what? Shane Beamer turning it around, man.
It's because you hopped off the wagon.
You did.
You're right.
You hopped off the wagon.
You backed off the pledge.
Well, I'm here to tell you I'm never hopping off the Lanning wagon, ever. And you know what? He controls his business. So I ain't even got to worry about jinxing that man. Jinxes don't apply to somebody who does the work every single day.
We'll see.
That don't happen.
You've been jinxing up a storm.
Now let me go around and do an offensive breakdown. They gonna lay an egg, but you know we're gonna be all right with this one. I love me some Dan Lanning, and I think he's a tremendous football coach. And I thought that was a prime example of exactly what it was to be a great college football coach, right? Getting those guys to play at their peak when you need them to do it. I talked about it Sunday. I'm allowing nowadays in college football a couple of these squeakers. For
sure.
We can't have 9 weeks in a row of pulling rabbits about the hat like BYU did, or like Clemson did back in 2015 or 14, whatever it was.
One of those years.
All right, you can't be barely beating App State, Troy, Wake Forest, losing to a Virginia, getting 12-1, and me feeling comfortable about you. But you can have a couple of these every once in a while. Ooh, we had to have a good fourth quarter to win.
Yeah, I mean, the last several national champions over the years have had these styles of wins of 1 week they go and play a school that they probably should handle, and it ends up being a close one. So I think that there are different signs of, oh, you just had one of those weeks, and this is a common theme now to where this is who you are, like BYU you're mentioning.
And it's not just that. The talent has gotten so spread out over the entire league that, teams are going to have more talent when you play them this year. I mean, the records are still going to be the records. You're still going to have 5 and 4 teams that you go up against midway through the season, but they're still going to have talent on them, and that's probably the part that I think has gone most overlooked. Like, Wisconsin obviously is not a great football team. They've had a lot of bad losses this year, but there's still talent on them. It still would measure up against most Wisconsin teams that you've had the last 5 seasons, so...
Still 81,000 people screaming their head off.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the main things. It's one of the main differences when you go on the road in these real premier conferences like Georgia or like the Big Ten and the SEC. Like, you're going to have to go stand in front of 75,000 people and survive on the road at night. That's not very easy to do. Before we transition into the Texas-Arkansas football game, I do want to get to a Super Chub. Turning the Flat says, BA, Kirby's explanation of the offensive line versus Ole Miss and then Tennessee do not ring true. Can you comment on the change in personnel, the scheme, and any other factor that made the difference? Obviously, most people want to point to the fact that, Ernest Green was not out there and Monroe Freeling played really, really well. I'll attest to that. Monroe Freeling had a tremendous football game, and there is obvious signs of, oh, wow, this is one of them ones that God touched, right? He's 6'7". He's got extremely quick feet. He's a great athlete in space. He's really, really long as well. There's obvious signs that this kid is really, really, really talented. He also played extremely well and extremely hard. However, I do want to be, fair about the idea that, playing left tackle is really hard. Playing left tackle on the road is extremely hard. Playing left tackle on the road without a left arm, damn near impossible. Okay, so I want to save my evaluation for Ernest Green for what it looks like when he's fully healthy, because there's no bones about it. Like he's not playing very well right now, or wasn't playing very well, and he wasn't 100% healthy. So I want to see what it looks like when he does get healthy and get put back in the lineup when that ultimately happens. In terms of schematic changes, right? Obviously, the 5 guys that played Saturday were the only 5 that were fully healthy. They played all game. I've always told you I really like that. I've been fond of the idea that we don't rotate on the offensive line. I don't like to rotate on the offensive line. I think the 5 guys that are the best 5 guys should be able to get the opportunity to build rapport through 4 quarters, all right? Facing the same front, seeing the same looks, seeing the same guys, right? Eventually, by the 4th quarter, they're better if they're healthy and in shape. They're better than they were to start the football game because they've seen what they're looking at a much higher rate, and they're getting comfortable. I like that idea. I like that happens, or at least was forced to happen on Saturday night for Georgia. Schematically, they obviously widened their splits. We'll talk about that during the local hour when we go to hit those notes. Let's hammer the Super Chub while we're on the Super Chubs right here. JB says, wow, can't believe Kirby came to work. Go Dogs. How exciting is it to see multiple offensive personnel step up in the Tennessee game, though? Nitro, tight end room, 57 on the O-line. Is the Georgia offense back? Let's hold a thought in that for the local hour, except for the fact that your work ethic's getting shit on. And I don't know if you'll ever be able to defy that, and that's my bad.
I don't know where that started.
That's on me.
It is what it is, man.
That's on me.
I guess that's just the bit I got to live with.
I enjoy a good bit.
Yeah.
Every once in a while. I don't like the bit when it's pointed at me. I'm not going to lie.
It's how most people are, don't worry.
Yeah. Get that bit out of my face. Texas, 20-10 against Arkansas. We watched this one from a tailgate there, Jay Will.
Yeah, we sure did. And I thought this was like a great football game in totality of I thought Arkansas maybe was going to end up winning this game. I thought that Texas was struggling to move the football. It seemed like they couldn't find any consistency in their passing game. But what ended up prevailing them in this game was Quinn Ewers. You saw the traits. And I think this is kind of this kind of shows like Quinn's entire career of there's kind of these ebbs and flows throughout where it's like, man, Quinn just not on it today, very up and down. But then you also see these spurts where it's like, oh, Quinn Ewers. That's why he's a highly regarded NFL prospect in the future. And it came in the final touchdown that they scored in that game where he throws an absolute seed to the corner of the end zone for a touchdown. So I thought that Texas's offense definitely stepped up in the biggest moment of that game, and eventually they just kind of overpowered Arkansas there late in the game.
I felt like the busted plays really cost Arkansas this game. That first touchdown that Texas had was, I mean, a classic bust where you had the safety come down too much on the dig, go route just wide open. So, I mean, this was the game that you needed Texas to play if you were Arkansas to win, and I just felt like they squandered it, honestly.
Yeah, I've got some key stats for you here. Their offense struggled to put away Vandy. A lot of the reason in that football game was penalties, holds, targetings, just goofy things that happened in Nashville that kind of inhibited Texas's ability to walk away from that football game. They struggled to put Arkansas away and dominate Arkansas the way that you're supposed to. And here's why. And I tweeted about this today. If you're not following me at BrooksAustinBA on Twitter, I'm never calling it X, by the way, Elon. You paid $40 billion for me to not call your app the right thing. I apologize. They're lacking efficiency in between the explosives. All right, That's what's obvious to me when I look at the drive charts, when I look at the film. They're not short of explosives. They're not at all. They have the ability to scheme up stuff like you're talking about. Most of those busted coverages that happen against Texas, they're happening because Sarkisian's kind of forcing the hand. Like he's very good at this. Every time he goes into a football game, he's got 6 or 7 20-yard explosives in his pocket as a play caller. That's what it is. Their problem right now is maintaining and sustaining drives when he doesn't have that beater getting called, right? Because you don't have 70 of them. We have 70 offensive snaps. If the coordinator's giving you 12 winners, we got to find out what to do in those 58 snaps in between those 12 winners. That's where they're losing football games. Sark's offense is all about the basics, creating opportunities for the exotics. I'll repeat that. Sark's offenses is all about the basics, creating opportunities for the exotics. They're really, really struggling in between the explosives. Guys, they averaged 4.2 yards per play against Arkansas on Saturday. 4.2 yards per play. If you extrapolated that out over a full season, that would average that average would be 133rd in college football right now. They only rank 134 football teams. They were really bad in the efficiency department on Saturday, despite the fact that they had 8 players account for at least one play of more than 10 yards from scrimmage. They had 8 players, guys, that had a play worth 10 yards, and they are averaging 4.2 yards per play in the football game. That's the definition of our basics, right? Our basics not getting us to our explosives. So, yeah, man, they have a real problem of being consistently good at the meat and vegetables of this offense.
Do you think that now, like, I know obviously it is a concern, but I would, like, if I was a Texas fan, I would be very concerned about this, because the way your schedule has been laid out and people are calling you out on it, that you have one of the easiest schedules in the conference. You've kind of just had to coast your way through this one. And then when you played a team like Georgia, who had a defense that could absolutely strap it down for 4 quarters, you got held in a box for 4 quarters. And now it's kind of, it's overflowing too against teams like Arkansas and some other opponents that you played on this slate, Vanderbilt, like you mentioned, to where I wouldn't be feeling great going into an SEC championship game. I wouldn't be feeling great going into a college football playoff, depending on the opponent, of course. But this is a real concern, I would say, for the Longhorns. And it's one that you probably never would have thought would happen under Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of the pushback and the exemption to the you just need to win the explosives battle, because, I mean, Texas is the exact antithesis of this. You have to win the explosive battle. It's important. You need explosives to win. But it's the stuff in between that gets you to the explosives that has to carry you there. If you're having explosives per game and then you're not doing shit else, you're really not moving the ball on offense.
The entire problem for them is that SEC defenses, this wasn't a problem prior to the SEC slate. SEC defenses have the ability and the willingness to walk up on them right now. Average depth of target has dropped tremendously since they've gotten into conference play. Average yards per carry has dropped tremendously since they've gotten into conference play. Everything about their offense has decreased against these good SEC football teams. And to be honest with you, they ain't playing like murderer's row in terms of the SEC. Like, y'all know what it is. Everybody's talked about their strength of schedule. We know what it is. They haven't gotten outside of Georgia the top of the top from this conference, even though they're still struggling to kind of manage the bottom half of these SEC defenses.
It really makes this Texas A&M game very interesting going into it, because it's going to be it's essentially going to be an elimination game at this point, I think.
I just hope by that point in the year that defensive line from Texas A&M is fully healthy, because if they are, Texas is in trouble.
Big trouble.
I think.
So going into this game as well, we had mentioned later in last week that Sam Pittman kind of on the hot seat. I think on the day of the game, there was a billboard.
It's disgusting.
In Arkansas that said something along the lines of, Sam Pittman, thank you for your time here in Arkansas, but it's time to move on. Something along the lines of that, basically like, we want you gone. A whole billboard.
They pulled the Geneva Convention. With all due respect, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
I started with all due respect. No, sir. You started with all due respect by buying a billboard on the highway that the team bus travels on to go to the stadium. Completely disrespectful. And I tweeted about this today. It's a very weird conversation to me because I think Arkansas fans think that because maybe Ole Miss is all of a sudden like a really good program, that you're a Lane Kiffin and $14.5 million annually dedicated to your roster away from being a college football playoff contender. And I'm here to tell you, I don't know if that's necessarily the truth.
No.
Y'all have had three football coaches in your history of the program that have won at least or have at least one season of 10 wins. One was Lou Holtz. You fired him. The other one, I can't remember the name of, left you. The other one was Petrino. You fired him because he was sleeping with his assistant and getting in wrecks on motorcycles. So, like, this ain't historically one of yours. What one of yours is a football coach that loves you, will never leave you. You got that. Another football coach that makes you not a laughingstock. You've got that. If they beat Texas on Saturday, every Hog fan's running to Twitter going, we got our guy. Thank God Sam Pittman saved his job. It was a 1-point game for 52 minutes. And because he lost it late, you want to fire him now. That's goofy as shit to me.
Yeah.
Plus, I would say to me, it's very obvious from an outsider's perspective of where Arkansas's athletic department feels like they can truly excel at like a national title contending level. You've had the same baseball coach since 2003. He's had an ultra amount of success as that position. And then you also go and hire John Calipari to be your head coach, a well-known name and commodity in college basketball. You don't make that type of hire in college football. You just don't do those, and your athletic department has not gone out of their way to try and make one of those hires. So to me, that says your athletic department is aware of, we can be really, really great national title contenders in basketball, baseball, things like that. In football, maybe not right now, and maybe they eventually transition to that, but I think that, like we've always said, Sam Pitman is just the perfect coach for Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, I think Arkansas fans need to have a look at themselves and say, what should the realistic expectation of this team be? Do we want to compete for national titles? If that's the case, we need to kind of wait and get some funding up and get things like that. Like, Sam Pittman's not going to be the guy to get us there, but you're also not just the right coach away from competing. A lot of things have to go right before that. So I don't think Sam Pittman's doing a bad job right now.
Like, people hopped in my mentions today talking about, like, you know, comparing the Arkansas job to Mississippi or comparing the Arkansas job to Florida. And I'm like, we talk a lot about the recruiting radius around here, right? What is your 5-hour radius? Find me. You know what? Research, do me a favor. Find me the highest ranked player in the 2025 class in the state of Arkansas and tell me what his national rank is. Because if it's inside the top 100, I'd be stunned. And if they've got one of those, that's great. Do they have 5? No. All right. The state of Arkansas doesn't really produce like high-end football talent. I'm not breaking any news there, right? And the surrounding areas around them aren't necessarily like elite. They can get to some areas of Tennessee. They can get to some areas of the Midwest. They can do some of that. But it's not like they're a 5-hour ride from downtown Atlanta and can recruit this area like every other SEC football team does. So, yeah, it's really, really hard to get great football players up there at Arkansas.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can only buy so many. Like, at least Lane's got all of Louisiana to pick through. He's got all of the west side of Alabama to pick through. He's got all the state of Mississippi to pick through and all the JUCOs. Like, it's a totally different ball game when you're talking about that Arkansas job, man. It's not that easy.
No, it is not.
Especially not in today's day and age. All right, maybe you know what they need to do? They got that Tyson money. They got that Nugget money. They got that Walmart money. They just need to call Jerry up and be like, look, Jerry, you clearly can't win an NFL championship. Let's just buy a college one because we can do this.
Yeah.
You got a salary cap and all that stuff up there. Let's just go, oil's looking like it's up. Drill, baby, drill. Let's go find some oil money and throw it into the Arkansas Razorbacks.
You know what? Maybe he is. Maybe that's why AT&T Stadium has metal falling from the sky right now. He's taking all the money out from the Cowboys, and he's pouring it into Arkansas football right now.
Jerry Jones, the savior of Arkansas football and the destroyer of Dallas Cowboys.
I'm seeing right now from research, Carius Curry is a 4-star offensive tackle from Marion, Arkansas. He's the highest ranked player. He's ranked 130th overall. I'm seeing right now in the chat, according to J. Will Howard, the number 2 ranked player in Arkansas is rated 425th. Not that easy of a football job. Okay, so I'd be taking it easy on Sam Pittman. And I know we feel like Sam Pittman defenders around here, but what is the standard? That's what we always talk about on this network. What should be the expectations for your football team? Because for me, Arkansas's expectations should be 7-5 perennially, and you don't get blown out. Don't get blown out. And I think he's appeased that standard, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, the question would be, does Sam Pittman want to be the coach of Arkansas anymore? Because I think that
Where would he go?
Retire, off into the sunset, enjoy the rest of his career.
I mean, I think he already deleted Twitter because he was kind of upset with the way people were talking about him. So, yeah, I mean, I could see – I saw a lot of people responding to my tweet today, particularly Georgia fans, like, oh, we'll take him back in Athens. I'm with you.
He's done.
He's walking off into the sunset with his bronze hog.
Yep.
All right.
He's going to every concert he wants to see. He's chilling. He's going to have the big hog in the backyard. He's fine. He does not need another job.
I'm still mystified by 4.2 yards per play while having 8 players with a scrimmage play of 10-plus yards.
That is a crazy stat.
Insane. BYU finally did it.
Oh.
Finally did it. To y'all's Jayhawks. You guys is Jayhawks. Are y'all claiming them now again?
Well.
Are y'all back on the J-Wagon?
So me and Jay will talk about this before show. He warned me. He's like, hey, I got my fix last week. I'm out. And, I got mine this Saturday. I think it's time we just sit back and say, you know what? We got what we needed from the Jayhawks. Let's
talk to me Friday night when them withdrawals start.
You know
start
what?
Scratching that neck, thinking, you know what?
I do want to.
Kansas might play spoiler.
I want to point out two things. I was nearly correct on saying that there was going to be 3 upsets in that conference. Arizona State took care of business against Kansas State. Kansas knocked off BYU. Utah could not get the job done against Colorado. But Kansas does have the opportunity of doing the most funny thing ever in the conference. Of 3 straight weeks, he would be Iowa State, they would be BYU, and then they would also beat Colorado this week. They have the opportunity to beat Colorado as well.
I was going to give you the opportunity on air to give a shout out to
no, man, 24-hour rule.
24-hour rule. Oh, you're playing coach at a microphone right now by your high school alum.
Right, look, Sequoia beat Gainesville this week in week 1.
Big knockoff.
Big knockoff.
Huge.
Yeah, at home.
I think Atlanta AJC had him as like a 35-point underdog.
Yeah, it was a big under. It was 13.5. But shout out.
He knew.
Shout out to the Chiefs, baby. On to the next one.
Shout out to La Chiefs. Yeah, congrats on the Sequoia win.
Appreciate it, man.
Awesome.
What were you saying, J-Will?
I was just saying Kansas could do the funniest thing ever of beating Iowa State, then also beating BYU, and then they play Colorado this week. They're only 4-point underdogs, just saying.
They could do it, but I don't think they're going to.
I called it 2 weeks in a row. Maybe I just say to heck with it and do it 3 weeks in a row. See if they got the magic in them.
It's also a neutral site game, pretty much.
That's how people hit their rock bottom, Jonathan. What you're talking about right now. You messing around chasing that dragon.
But Brooks, I've already proven that
facility.
I can get off the fix and I'm good. I'm fine. So I've already proven I can do it once.
Yeah,
why not just do it twice?
You had that BYU Reggie. I'm talking about giving you that gas pack this weekend. I'm talking about giving you that gas pack, that dub against Colorado, dog. That's that exotic shit. That's that shit that's going to have you coming back going, hey, where that at? You know what I mean?
Talk to me on Thursday.
I will. You're going to be back on it. Talk about that junkie talk. You're going to be back on that Kansas Jayhawk bandwagon.
Did Kansas do us a favor, or did that just make our lives much more frustrating when the playoff selection comes?
I'm not worried about the Big 12. We know they're going to get in a charity bid in. We know your conference champ's going to get in. And for Big 12 and ACC fans, hopefuls, you better hope that it's a one-loss win or a one-loss team, not one of some chaos situation where Kansas wins this weekend and BYU takes another loss, and now all of a sudden you got a 2-loss, 3-loss team in their Big 12 championship game, and maybe it's a close football game. BYU gets in as a 2-loss Big 12 champ and then gets their doors blown off after a bye week. If that happens, okay, and when it happens, not if it happens, when it happens to an ACC champ that gets an automatic at-large bid or a Big 12 champ that gets an automatic large bid, you're going to hear Tony Petitti, or you won't hear it publicly, but you're going to hear Tony Petitti and our man Greg Sankey going in there and dropping that wood on the table saying, hey, look, guys, they had their chance. We gave them their automatic bid. They squandered it. All right, so we're going to reseed from now on because these jamokes get automatic bids, and that's not fair.
I will say, as much as we crap on the Big 12 and the ACC and how we're like, oh, they're going to get this auto bid, that's so lame.
SEC homers is what we are.
I am excited for conference championship weekend to where, usually in scenarios like this in years prior of maybe where the Big 12 doesn't necessarily have a contender, or the ACC is going to have a Miami who is the contender and an SMU who is somewhat of a contender, but nobody is really believing it, buying that playoff stock. I am interested to see what these games are like when there's so much on the line for both of these teams. You might be 9-3 in the Big 12 championship game, but you're fighting for a freaking playoff spot. You have just as much right of being there and earning that playoff spot than you do the other guy who might have one loss on the year.
That is going to make things interesting, but it's also I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting dynamic. I have no idea how it's going to play out.
Find the fun in it,
Yeah. Silver lining guy. I like it.
Guys, I think there is a walk-away candidate and winner of Coach of the Year, and he's not even going to finish in the top 3 in voting.
Who's that?
Kenny Dillingham. What Kenny Dillingham, and by the way, absolute crime that they are not ranked right now as an 8-2 football team. You can't sit here and tell me that Arizona State hasn't earned the right to be a top 25 football team on the AP poll at least. I have a feeling they're going to be in the top 25 tomorrow night in the college football playoff rankings. They go to Manhattan, Little Manhattan, Kansas, and open up a 21-0 can of whoop ass on the Kansas State. Kansas State. What are they?
The Wildcats.
Wildcats. Just whipping that ass behind the wagon of Cameron Scatterbo. A good 28 attempts for 79 yards this weekend for Scatterbo, but that's not what it matters. That's not what matters. What matters is the fact that Arizona State has survived a stretch of football games where Sam Levitt, their starting quarterback, was down, and Cam Scatterbo, the Amish King, was down, and they still managed to be 8-2. Guys, this is a football team that was under NCAA sanctions 12 months ago. They didn't have enough football players to practice 12 months ago, 18 months ago. Here they are, 8-2, all right, and one of the better football programs in the Big 12 on the rise with an alumnus, by the way, coaching their football program. So I think he's going to be there a long time. I am finding myself every single Saturday looking up going, man, what a football program that I want to root for. I want this football team to reach every bit of highs that they possibly can with this football coach. He deserves it.
And you know what? Props to you, though, because you were early in. You were in
hammering it
and I was
early.
I was very much like, dude, Arizona State.
He's kidding,
sucks.
right? He's kidding,
I
right?
thought it was a bit at first. I thought the Amish King was a bit. No, it's a legit. They are a very good football
Dude,
team.
it's the first thing I noticed about him when I turned him on, like week 2 of this year. They are tremendously undersized at every single position. They're transfer retreads at every single position. They recruit a very specific type of football player that's very under the radar. They got 22 commits in the 2025 class that nobody's freaking heard of. Nobody. Every single player I look at is like 3-star unranked, 3-star unranked. Big, physical. Like you can see the body types. Every tackle that they recruit, 6'5 plus, obviously undersized in the weight department, but got the length. They obviously have a plan, okay? And yes, when I turned them on, the very first thing I noticed, this team fights like hell. They are physical, they rally, they tackle, they're never out of football games. They're well coached, and it was very obvious from the first time I turned them on.
I mean, being down 21-0 to a team like Arizona State, like that's the wrong team to be down 3 scores to because you're right where they want you. And I know that's you could say that for every team of being up 21-0 is having someone right where they want you, but for that team, how they just grind out football games and they make life so hard for you on both offense and defense. They're going to make you work your way down the field both ways. Like they just want to kind of tick their way down the field offensively, and they want to make you have to chunk their way down when you're on offense. So I think he has done a phenomenal job.
And you can see the drastic deterioration from Florida State's offense the moment he left. And you didn't see it at Oregon, but you could see just how good of an offensive coordinator he was during his time at Oregon. And then he goes to Arizona State, and it's like, man, they're finding ways every single week to put up points, despite the fact that they're drastically at a talent disadvantage almost every single week because of what they've been put under with regards to NCAA violations and sanctions. It's been a tremendous job by Kenny Dillingham out there. And again, I don't think anybody's mentioning this guy's name for Coach of the Year candidacies.
Yeah, and I mean, it's unfortunate that this happened in a year where freaking Indiana is undefeated and their coach is giving hot takes and sound bites every single week. So it's unfortunate for him because he is a worthy candidate. But when we've got a guy like Kurt Signetti stealing the show, it's unfortunate.
The Sig Man.
Yeah, I mean, with a nickname like the Sig Man, bro, you got it in the bag.
With
they could have gone 8-2, and he's the coach.
And a marketing scheme of putting Signetti on the top of the Marlboro old logo. That's cold. We need the Amish community to get out and start really pounding the drum for my man Scatterbo.
How are we going to hear them?
I don't know.
They're not going to reach us.
I don't know. I was looking at BYU, and I know, they're a Mormon school, but I was looking at BYU's YouTube page. They be doing numbers. I don't know how.
They do know how to spread the word. I'll say that. They have reached out to us many times at the Kirby household.
The Mormons?
We'll knock at the door.
Yeah. Let's stay on the Big 12. Colorado wins after – I thought this was an interesting football game for them because and I'm going to shit on the 10 a.m. local kick here in a second, but 10 a.m. local kick for this football team, and they start out hot as a firecracker against Utah, climb out to an early lead, and then they go stagnant for a while. And then like good football teams do, they get themselves right, and they finish the fourth quarter no different than they started the football game. I thought it was a very class-filled win for Colorado.
Well, it was interesting because the first play of the game, Shedeur throws a pick.
Make sure you're hitting that like button.
The first play of the game, Shedeur throws a pick, and it's kind of like, ooh, is this going to be one of these games? And they very quickly ride the ship, and like you said, there was a lull in the middle. It feels like these last few Colorado games have been, hey, it's a fourth quarter game, and it's kind of close. And then you look back up, it's like, oh, wait, Colorado's winning by 3 scores now, just like that. Like, they jump on teams so quickly towards the back end of games.
Well, I think that's why they're so dangerous, too, especially in that type of conference, because there's moments in games where it does feel like you have them on the ropes. Like, maybe you are going to be able to pull off the upset, and you are going to walk out of there with a win and knock them off. But they just feel like a ticking time bomb of it's only a matter of time until Shedeur has a drive where he's just a masterclass and he chunks it down the field and they score explosively. Or it's only a matter of time until Travis Hunter does something freaky defensively, forces a turnover that nobody else in all of college football could force. And like it's just a matter of time. And every time I watch Colorado, that's how I feel of there's only a matter of time until Shedeur does something crazy. There's only a matter of time until Travis Hunter does something as well.
All right, let's cook Fox now. 10 a.m. local kick for Colorado in this football game. And this takes a week late, right? Because Joel Klatt had the nerve to go out and tell the world that they made some, life-changing decision to create a big noon kickoff as if, it was all on them for making these games have decent ratings at a noon slot that traditionally doesn't have good ratings. When we all know why they did it. We all know why Fox created big noon kickoff. Because they were afraid of competition. They're afraid of competition at the 3:30 slot. They're afraid of competition at the 7:30 slot. They knew they were getting walked. They're getting walked by SEC matchups every single week. 10 of the top 15 matchups in terms of viewership all year long have been the top 10 have been all SEC matchups. We know what the numbers are. So Fox was like, you know what? We can't beat them. So why not just avoid them? It is the biggest example of we're afraid of competition that any college football business has ever made. We're clearly avoiding everybody else. So we're going to take our best game every single week, and doesn't matter if it's a 10 a.m. local kick. We're going to move it to noon, and we're going to make them kids get up and play. We're going to make that fan base get up and play. Also, we can have decent ratings on the game that we know will get overlooked by bigger games in the later slot. It's cowardice for a company, and it forces these football fan bases to get up, and it completely ruins home field advantages for some of these big-time games. I hate it. And I know why you like it, Kirby, and it's a selfish reason why you like it, and I respect that about you, that you're like, you know what? It's about me, baby. I need a good game to watch at noon. Thank you, Fox. So go ahead, deliver that take.
I was going to also say, like, the counterpoint to this is if you're an elite fan base, it doesn't matter what time you kick off. It should be a loud environment regardless, whether it's noon or whether it's 7:30. And I mean, I get all the points of, yes, it is Fox kind of ducking the competition. It's probably also Fox looking, saying there's an opportunity here. Let's try to corner this market. No one really had their talons set into the noon slate because no one really liked it. So, I mean, props to Fox for at least going out and making it a signature thing of theirs. Now, it's probably the least signature slate that you have. I mean, CBS's 3:30 slot's iconic. The 7:30 primetime kick is what it is. We all know that. But I get why Fox did it, and I get why Joe Klatt's going to come out here and defend it. I mean, like, he's not going to say on a public forum, talk shit about his company's business decisions. But I do agree that it's not great, but I'm glad that we have something there at noon rather than the point of, oh, wait, we got to wait another 4 hours before any game of substance comes on.
There's a lot of other things I'll complain about before I complain about a good noon game.
Facts.
But I'm with you on saying, like, oh, we reinvented the noon slot.
Don't try to say that.
Don't take some supremacy stance on that. Just we'll be grateful that you put good football games at noon for us to enjoy.
I saw a take that was like, buddy, if you put Ohio State, Penn State at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, it's going to do numbers. Don't act like you're some kind of genius.
Yeah, no. I mean, they're not doing anything special with it, and I don't think that they should come out and say, look at what we're doing. But I do think that at the very least, Fox has now a time slot that is synonymous with their brand. So props to them. It's the worst time slot unanimously decided on the college football slate, but at least we as fans get something to say, hey, College Game Day just did it. I don't have to watch Clemson beat the hell out of whatever middling ACC team there was at noon. There's something on right now of substance.
Speaking of the ACC, some shit show they put on television this weekend, huh?
Disgusting, dude. They might be the worst conference.
Which one do you want to start with? Do you want to start with Stanford pulling it out, or do you want to start with that absolute disgusting rock fight that Clemson and Pitt had?
We can talk the rock fight because I feel like we had more invested in it leading up to it.
You thought my Texas stat was incredible. Listen to this one. All right, Klubnik wins this football game with a 50-yard quarterback draw down the sideline, breaks a tackle, runs to the door.
Yep.
They win the football game. Prior to that 50-yard attempt, okay, their last rush of the football game. Do you want to know what Clemson's rushing stat line looked like?
Was it less than 30?
Was it? Buddy, they had 26 attempts for 8 yards.
How many sacks?
I think 5.
All right, that's
Phil
still
Maffa
unacceptable.
No, even worse. Phil Maffa in this football game had 17 attempts for 17 yards.
Consistent.
If Antonio Williams wasn't on that roster, they would have been in deep, deep shit. Antonio Williams, 13, 149, 2 tuds. He was the whole offense.
Look, I knew how this game was about to be when you saw the pregame injury report. Pittsburgh's down their starting quarterback. Clemson's down a couple defensive linemen. They're down some offensive linemen. It was going to be this. It was going to be some sucky ACC football, and boy, was it ever. I mean, that is exactly what Clemson Pitt was. It's just a standard for the ACC, man. That's what they do. They play some sucky football, and it's a close game. It'll have you glued to your TV for a little bit just to see who's going to suck the worst. Pittsburgh ended up sucking the worst. Thank you, Panthers.
So much sucking on Saturday. It was terrible. I hated watching it. And this is coming from
I'd never thought I'd be wishing for Eli Goldstein to return.
Dude, this is coming from someone who loves watching football. I will sit through San Jose State versus Midville School for the Blind. I love football that much. This game was very hard to watch. I was watching it downtown, and I was just like, ooh, this needs to end now. And then when Cade Klubnik hit that 50-yard touchdown, I was like, thank God this does not go into overtime. So,
Apparently, I made Kirby's All Access this week. I guess my voice is in it, so that's cool. Hope it wasn't me sounding like sin on Monday and Tuesday.
they're going to box their ass.
Yeah. Oh, boy, did I sound terrible. Louisville got beat by Stanford this weekend.
I didn't see any of this football game.
38-35. I watched the highlights. It was as sad as I thought it was going to be.
Was it sad?
This is sad to me. Because I remember a time where David Shaw had Stanford's football program inside the top 15 perennially. I remember when Stanford stood for the higher class of athlete, where great athletes looked at Stanford as an opportunity to get both a great education and play great football. And then something happened. And if you listen to the way David Shaw talks about it, what happened was bureaucracy. They made it way too hard to be a football coach at Stanford for an extended period of time, particularly once NIL started coming around, right? The ability to pay players, not going to happen basically at an Ivy League school out there. Like, they weren't going to be in the ability or in the ballpark to be out here buying into football because they don't really care about football. It was great that David Shaw made them great and created money for the school, but they don't really care about it. And that's what made David Shaw retire. If you listen to him talk about it, that's exactly what he talks about, is they made it way too hard for me to be a football coach. So guess what happened? David Shaw left, and the life of the football program kind of left. And I know the football coaching staff out there is doing a tremendous job, in my opinion, because they're fighting with, a deck of cards that doesn't have every, card in it. They don't have the same capabilities of everybody that they're playing against. And I look at football teams that are 2-7, and they show up 1-5 in the conference at a conference game against a ranked opponent at home with nobody in the stands. Nobody. Zero, maybe 150 people total at that football game, it felt like. So much so that ESPN's just removed every camera angle possible that shows the lower bowl or shows the stands at all. We're going to tight squeeze this football game, pump in fake crowd noise, and then God forbid they don't kick any field goals to expose the fact that nobody's here. Problem is, game ended on a game-winning field goal. Game ended on a game-winning field goal. They kicked the field goal, and you realize, oh my God, there's nobody there. This football team has played their heart out for 4 quarters, 1-5 in the conference, beat a ranked football team, and there is nobody there at a Power 4 conference. I know they're 2-7. I understand that. And I know research departments tell me that 18,000 people attended that football game. I'm calling bullshit. I'm calling bullshit because I watched it. There wasn't nobody there, and it's sad. It's sad to me that we have a Power 4 football team out here fighting for their lives, and they can't get nobody to get there. And can't get nobody to get there at all. And I thought they played a great football game. That was the crazy thing. It wasn't even like a fourth quarter come from behind win where Stanford's down 21 points going into the fourth and they rush back like they did last year against Colorado. No, this was a tight football game for 4 quarters that was won on the last second kick. Nobody there. Nobody there.
Well, Brooks, finals are coming up. You got studying to do over there. They have football games? Come on, man. This finals got to get that GPA right.
I miss good Stanford.
I do too.
I didn't realize I missed good Stanford. Like, growing up through elementary school, Stanford was always good. They had Andrew Luck. They had McCaffrey. They had a pretty solid defense. It was one of those teams where it's like, hey, consistent top 25 team. And you don't realize how much you miss a team like that until they're not there anymore. Like, Stanford was such a unique brand for me, I feel like.
Well, good Stanford was fantastic for college football fans because they were always going to be that late night slot when you need a good football game to watch. And you were going to get Christian McCaffrey, or you were going to get
Toby Gearhart. Give it to me.
Or you were going to get Andrew Luck or the Love kid. What was his name? He was the running back.
Bryce Love. Give it to me.
Bryce Love. Like, you were going to get a good football game late night every single time because Stanford had your back.
Damn shame.
It is.
And it happens quickly.
Very.
Yep. Just like that, man. It happens really, really quickly for these football programs that fall off. But congratulations on a massive win. I have a stat for you boys. You ready? Louisville.
You're bringing all the stats tonight.
Louisville has 4 losses on the season. Do you know what their opponents are averaging in terms of points per game in those 4 losses?
33.
32.75 points.
I was on that.
This defense is Swiss cheese. All right? Swiss cheese out here giving it up.
I mean, we kind of knew that when Miami went in there and it was a close game, but Miami put up 52 points against them?
Something like that. Yeah, it was 52-45 was the final in that football game. But
the worst part about this is Louisville was Miami and SMU's best win.
Not anymore.
So, I mean,
that defensive coordinator might have to
honestly,
skedaddle.
Florida is probably Miami's best win.
At this point,
Yeah.
I mean, the ACC has completely collapsed in on itself to a point where it's like, you look at that conference now, it's like, yeah, Miami's pretty good. Cam Ward, pretty cool. Other than that, not doing shit.
Apparently, we have somebody in our chat right now that was actually at the game, said maybe 3,000 people there. We have a Stanford fan listening tonight.
Hell yeah, dude.
Shout out to you guys, man.
Who'd have thought we would reach the Stanford fan base before we reached I don't know, Ole Miss or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe he said earlier that his son plays for Stanford.
Oh, that might, well, no.
Hell
I
yeah.
believe that's what I saw earlier, say that his son plays for Stanford.
Wicked smart.
For sure.
Got good genetics. Shout out to Paul right there. What was the key? I'm just kidding. To having your kids care about school, because I damn sure didn't. And I wonder if that's like one of them traits you pass down. I'm hoping not.
You think caring about school is genetic?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Hoping not. If it is, maybe my wife, is the one they're gonna pull from on that attribute. Hopefully. South Carolina wins another crazy one at Willie B. Another one.
What a season for South Carolina
Right?
fans.
Feet for free.
Yeah.
I think he learned a lot last year. I know. Based off how he's responded, Shane Beamer, that is.
Yeah.
I think he's approached this at a far more professional rate. Prime example. No sit-down feet for free interviews with Brandon Marcello this year. Nope.
And if you notice, there's a lot less of the fun locker room video creative stuff that they've been doing. Like last year, it felt like that's what made Shane Beamer. Shane Beamer was like, he's doing the full house videos and he's doing the interviews and he's doing that. Like, it's a very much more professionally based operation this year at South Carolina, and it seems to be paying off dividends. Now, is that the reason why they're having success? No, but I feel like that's probably an attribute to it.
I think it's also worth pointing out that there was some slimy stuff going on with Missouri's quarterback room heading into that
you
game.
texted me this
Yeah,
before
that
the
was
game.
weird.
Yeah, so Brady Cook was listed as either doubtful or out at the beginning of the week. Like, Brady Cook is not playing, so they're going to play Pine. Well, then rumors start swirling that
Pine's hurt.
He's sick.
Oh.
He has an illness. He's doubtful. Well, if you don't know Missouri's quarterback room, the third-string quarterback also plays baseball, and he had Tommy John surgery, so he is also out for the season.
Shout out Sam Horn.
So people were saying that Missouri is about to go play their fourth-string quarterback against South Carolina, only for Brady Cook to walk out and be the starter and play seemingly fine. Didn't seem to be hobbled too much, in my opinion, either.
Is that legal?
What was the final injury report status?
I have no idea.
There are some football coaches out here playing some games with that, and it's all of them. It's not some. Like I got quotes from Kirby Smart's press conference today about injuries. You want to hear them? Dylan Bell, no tightrope. How's Micah Morris doing? We're hopeful to get him back. How's Ernest Green doing? We're hopeful to get him back. How's Trevor Etienne doing? We're hopeful to get him back. How's Branson Robinson doing? We're hopeful to get him back. Y'all wanted transparency. You ain't got nothing but fugaziness from all these football coaches, man.
Nope.
They out here playing with y'all's ass. Especially Vegas. Could you imagine betting on South Carolina in that football game thinking like, oh, they're playing their fourth-string quarterback.
I can
put the mortgage on the game.
I could almost guarantee you that there were many of people that saw Missouri was about to play their fourth-string quarterback and put a whole bunch of money. Now,
yes.
I guess it's I can't remember. I don't know what the final line was, but I know Missouri was heavily favored coming into this.
South Carolina was heavily
or
favored.
Sorry,
Yeah.
South Carolina was heavily
I think
favored.
about it's like 6.5, maybe 7.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And that line, I would imagine all the late movement probably happened on Missouri.
You would think so.
On South Carolina because of what we're talking about. Just
Yeah.
weird.
Honestly, I feel like Vegas hasn't changed their approach at all with this. Because, I mean, beforehand, all the injury stuff was kept under wraps. Like, even though it's, quote unquote, out in the open now, like, you have to take it with a grain of salt. Like, we saw Lane Kiffin had 26 players on his injury report before they played Georgia.
How about Lenora Sellers in this football game, boys? 21 for 30, 353, 5 tuds, and an interception.
He looked pretty good. He looked like not a freshman.
He looked like not a freshman, and the offensive coordinator designed some delightful concepts, particularly in the red zone. They used his legs to either like roll him and give him the option to take off and run. But when this guy's rolling right, most defenses are going to attack him in the red zone because they're worried about him taking off and running. And the 5 touchdown passes, a couple of them came on explosives, but 2 or 3 of those came in the red zone on just tremendous play calls and play design from Dow Loggins, man. The shovel pass touchdown to win that football game was an incredible play call as well. I felt like offensively, South Carolina was out here winning with scheme, whereas like when I looked at what Missouri was doing, it was like, oh, your weapons bailed you out. Luther Bird won a 50-50 ball and took it to the crib, and some of these explosives started happening for you.
And guess what? Those weapons aren't going to be there next year.
Nope.
So,
And that's what I was going to point out about. I think this is what has been the difference for South Carolina down the stretch is earlier in the year, like when they were playing teams like Alabama, and it felt like you were either going to get an explosive or your offense was just gonna sputter out. Like you were going to end up punting the football. And it kind of looked like that on the final drive of the season for them, or not the season, of the game, and in this Missouri game, where they had a big tackle for loss to start the drive, but then they find an explosive, and they still find ways to move the ball consistently. They manage the clock really well, I think, in that situation where they're running the football pretty well, and then they design up a beautiful play call, Dow Loggins did, of the shovel passes you're mentioning to get the game-winning touchdown. And I think, too, like, players like Nick Harper, where earlier in the year people are like, where the heck is this guy? Like this former 5-star that has this all-time track speed. Like, where's this guy? Why is he not being a factor in the offense? You see some of him against Alabama. He had 2 touchdowns, I believe, against Missouri this past weekend. They are finding ways to be explosive, but what you're also talking about, they're doing everything in between as well. So they're becoming a legitimate threat offensively.
This guy's developing into such a good passer, particularly when he's extending plays, man. He's a dangerous football player. I said yesterday, and I'm sure you guys will agree with this, for the hopes of South Carolina fans, hope that year 2 under Sellers doesn't go near as bad as year 2 under Rattler did, because there was an obvious drop-off and obvious expectations going into the second year of Rattler there. And now you have a 3-year runway with this quarterback.
Are you referencing Rattler second year of Oklahoma or second
year of South Carolina? I mean,
I felt like he played better.
He played better, but the team got around him got worse.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I hope there's no deterioration of the assets around Lenora Sellers.
That's my only fear with South Carolina. There are a lot of good football players on that team that likely won't be there next year. Like you have Dylan Stewart, you have Josiah Thompson, who's a left tackle, who's been starting for them all year and he's played really well. You have Nick Harper, who's only in his second year of college football. You have Lenore sellers, but there's a lot of vets on that defense, like Kyle Kennard. His draft stock is absolutely skyrocketed. He's going to be a high-caliber draft pick. There's guys in that secondary like Nick Emanawari, I believe is how you say his name. He's a really good football player.
I think that's Iman Wari,
who's going to go to the NFL. Like, there's some really good football players that likely won't be there next year. I hope that they're able to rebuild that roster to where they can remain competitive.
All right, we're running low on time, so let's wrap it up here. LSU got thumped on the road by Florida.
Ooh, they've given up. They've given up. That's bad. And
they gave up?
It looked like it. I mean,
line of scrimmage-wise, they got destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, there was no fight in that team come the fourth quarter. I know we talked about it earlier, how Brian Kelly was singing Tom Petty and all that. Wasn't working, dude. Did not go well.
What do you think Brian Kelly's go-to karaoke song is?
Don't
let the dogs out.
Sweet Caroline.
Ooh,
He strikes me as a Sweet
You know
Caroline
my
guy.
thoughts on that one. That checks out.
I was thinking some. The body was bumping up. Hey, Maybe one of those.
Who let the dogs out?
Yeah.
By the Baja Man?
Yeah, strikes me as a Baja Man guy.
Interesting. I'm impressed that I got that off of him literally saying no words.
I had no idea
Not
what he
speaking
was
English and just
referencing.
making noises.
Of all the things to quote from that song, he went with that one.
He could have
It
said,
was the Yippee-I-O that got you. That's all that needed. That's all that I needed.
Out, baby.
That's all that I needed. Yippee-I-O.
Oh, man. But no, I mean, shout out to Billy Napier for looking like this is a play, or not a playoff, but a bowl game team. They got to beat a bad Florida State team. You're going bowling. I mean, we thought he was dead at the start of the year.
Would be very Florida for them to lose that game against Florida State. But the good news is that this plan and this kind of this deep into the future plan, it seems like they have set in Florida of, we feel like Billy Napier and DJ Lagway can make something happen here. DJ Lagway looks incredible. Watching him play football, like I saw this stat today about his deep ball accuracy. He has like a 94 grade on his deep ball if throws 20-plus yards.
Dude, it's not even that he's hitting guys. He's hitting them in stride.
Yeah, it looks effortless.
It's insane.
Yeah, he is a joy to watch. I enjoy watching DJ Lagway play. It's explosive. Everything about it is smooth. So I think that they have their guy. It's just a matter of, like we have always said with Florida, of getting more guys around him.
It feels like it's right person, right player, wrong time for Florida right now. Like we all knew coming into the season, like this schedule was a monster, and it has turned out to be that way. Now Florida State's gotten a little easier for you, but other than that, like everything's been difficult. And you lost your starting quarterback for the season. Then you had to go to DJ Lagway. He got hurt. He missed a game or two. Missed really a game in 3 quarters that you both lost. So it's been tough for Billy Napier. So shout out to them for being able to crawl this team to 6 wins. Supposedly.
Right, back to LSU because I got a take I want to deliver. Obviously, they have a red zone problem. They have a red zone efficiency problem. They're 79th right now in touchdown conversion rate in the red zone areas. Not very good. Nuss has become damaged goods at this point, in my opinion, and based off the evaluation. I see a guy who, like, there was a clip Saturday where the interior of that offensive line completely opens up a void in the middle where he could just take off a run, or at least, at the very least, step up in the pocket and deliver a strike, something that he's not been able to do all year because they've been getting destroyed down to down, normally, guard to guard. A lot of pressure on the interior of those guys. Gave up 7 sacks on Saturday, most of which were guard to guard. But clear as day, pocket up in the middle, completely empty, completely void, ready for him to step up, and he starts spinning out, running backwards. Because, like I said, damaged goods at this point. Escape. But anyways, they aren't exactly happy right now with Brian Kelly as the head football coach. Lot of strong voiced opinions from LSU fans. A lot of Notre Dame fans looking at this going, ha, glad that's out of here.
Just you wait, Notre Dame fans. You'll have your day.
Wait. Marcus Freeman sure is handsome, though. But anyways, so I got to thinking, this is a football program that has won national titles with an actual grass eater and a swamp monster. Like, they got on top of college football with a dude that, like, literally ate grass before the game and had some very, very questionable things going off the field, and another guy who was a literal swamp monster that ran around campus shirtless. All right, so they've won football games with guys that are just insane. All right, and if I compare this almost like to a management fund, like somebody that's managing your money, right? When somebody approaches you about managing your funds, they tell you, all right, I got a couple of pathways here. We can be really, really risky, and we can risk these high returns. All right, we can have Ed Orgeron or Les Miles is our head football coach. Guys that, very volatile, but hey, one year they might turn out 18% returns on your money. And then we got this other guy, Brian Kelly, who might as well be like a savings bond. Brian Kelly, nice and boring. Just go compound interest, about 3.5%, maybe 5% over, a good 8-9 years. Nice and safe. That's what it should be. That's what I think of Brian Kelly. And then randomly, Brian Kelly gets his doors blown off at home against Tennessee a couple years ago, lays a flat-ass egg 2 weeks ago against Alabama, and then lays another one this week against Florida. And I really don't know where to go with him. I don't know what to do with him because he's obviously got holes on his roster, but at least he's not blind to the holes on his roster. He's clearly making attempts to make it better at the specific areas of need. They're recruiting really, really well in 2025. Bottom line, I don't know what to do with him. I know they're not happy with him, but I also know they owe him $61 million if they were to fire him today, and they still owe the Swamp Monster $17 million. So they ain't getting out of it.
It's an interesting situation, right? And I think he's one of these classic examples of falling victim to your expectations. You came in 2022, and it was kind of just like, hey, let's see how this goes. We're past the Ed Orgeron stage. Brian Kelly's here. You win the West.
Yeah.
You win the West. Exciting year. You come in, hey, Brian Kelly won the West his first season. National championship contender easily. You have Jaden Daniels. He's a great player. Gives you 1,000 rushing yards. He's the Heisman winner. Have a horrible defense. Lose 2 or 3 games that season, I think. So now it's, again, hey, Jaden Daniels is gone, but we made a lot of moves on the defense. We've got a really good offensive line. Garrett Nussmeier's the real deal. Did you see how he played last week or in the bowl game last season? It hasn't turned out the way you thought. So, 4 losses is unacceptable if you're Brian Kelly, but it's unfortunate simply because I think that just give him time, honestly.
All right, real quick, college football playoff rankings come out tomorrow. I'm going to give you mine right now. Oregon, Ohio State, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas, Georgia, Indiana, Penn State, Miami, Colorado, Notre Dame, Boise State. Those are my 12 right now. My power ranking system looks totally different than my college football playoff rankings. Do you want my power ranking system?
Is this like a BA poll?
This is a BA poll, if you will. So I only have 6 teams mentioned on this list.
All right.
And if you can find me the 7th and give me a real reason why they belong in this group of teams, I'll listen. But these are the only 6 teams I feel like ranking on my power ranking system right now. 1, Oregon. 2, Alabama. 3, Ohio State. 4, Ole Miss. 5, Georgia. 6, Texas. There isn't a 7th team right now.
Army.
No.
Yeah, go ahead and say it. Say you hate the troops. Do it.
No.
Do it on air.
I'm an Army fan this weekend.
Oh.
But
Wait till Thursday.
is there another team, Jonathan, seriously, that deserves to be listed in this group of power rankings?
I think the only one is Miami. That's the only one where you could legitimately maybe make a case for.
And I would not want to make the case for Miami. So.
All right. No need to do winners and losers. Give me one big winner. Who was it?
One big
Billy Napier.
Billy Napier.
Billy
One big
Napier
winner.
was a good one. I would say Colorado. BYU lost, you won again. Your playoff hopes are creeping up.
I would go SEC strength of schedule truthers. Man, they had a big weekend this weekend on social media. Losers. Good football coaches on my end. Biff Poggi shit canned today.
America lost.
What?
Dude.
Biff Poggi taking a loss or taking a firing.
I
at
almost
Charlotte.
didn't show up today because of it.
Honestly, I was downtrodden. I was really, really upset. Worse than when my favorite gas station attendant didn't remember my name.
I'm wearing black, so you know why.
Brian Bohannon obviously shit canned last week at Kennesaw State, and UMass's head coach got fired. How dare you fire UMass's head coach when they got screen shakers out here against Liberty in the middle of the 4th quarter?
Why would you do that the week of Georgia?
Well, you're going to get your torn up anyways. So you might as well
now it's like
rip the Band-Aid
you're
off.
leaving the boys out to dry.
Pour lemon juice in the razor blade cut. Let's go to local hour, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Film Guy Network here on the local hour. We're going to talk that dog for the next hour. I want to start with some recruiting news that we were going to hit on the national hour that we're going to tackle right now. Obviously, Julian Lewis decommitted from Southern California this weekend and happened to be on a Sunday right after an official visit to Georgia. And a lot of people looked at that as like, ooh, does this mean Georgia's in the mix? Obviously, everybody knows Colorado's in the mix and probably the favorite at this point to land Julian Lewis. But I think people got their timelines misconstrued this weekend because I don't think a lot of people really know how Lincoln Riley goes about his business, particularly at the recruiting or at the position of quarterback on the recruiting trail. Lincoln Riley is a one quarterback recruiter. He only recruits one at a time. He gets that guy committed, and that's it. There is no second quarterback in the class historically. They find their guy that they like. They hone in on him. They only recruit that guy. So much so, they don't even allow other quarterbacks to take visits normally. So obviously about 3 or 4 months ago, I wouldn't even say that long, maybe about 2 months ago, it was very clear that Julian Lewis was kind of exploring other options, even dating back, honestly, to July. After the Elite 11, he took an official visit to Colorado, and there's a lot of smoke coming out about Colorado potentially having an opportunity to land him. So what does Lincoln Riley do as his quarterback starts to flirt with other folks? Well, he starts to flirt with other quarterbacks. Honed in on Hassan Longstreet, the 5-star on some recruiting rankings that's committed to Texas A&M. Also happened to be playing high school football in the state of California. This is a Cali kid. Okay, so Lincoln Riley starts to identify Hassan Longstreet as a potential, not replacement, but a potential backup plan if indeed Julian Lewis wants to go elsewhere. So Hassan Longstreet on a recruiting visit this past weekend up there to Southern Cal, and it gets pretty obvious that they're going to take Hassan Longstreet. They take Hassan Longstreet. Julian Lewis gets a phone call, I would imagine, of, hey, we're going to go elsewhere. You seem to be going elsewhere. Seems like a mutual parting of the ways. You can go ahead and announce. Julian Lewis announces, I'm decommitted from Southern Cal. Ironically enough, within 30 seconds, you see the tweet that Hassan Longstreet has now committed to Southern Cal. So I think it had far more to do with Southern Cal's timeline at the quarterback position than it did anything to do with Julian Lewis's recruitment. So let's talk about Julian Lewis's recruitment at this point. I still think he leans Colorado. I think that's where he ends up, but it's hard not to be impressed with what Georgia did offensively Saturday night inside of Stanford Stadium. Indeed, being on a visit there was Julian Lewis, right? But here's the problem, in my opinion. I think it's something that Georgia's going to have to overcome. Obviously, he's wanted to play at Georgia for a good bit of time. He grew up in the state of Georgia. Everybody knows that that's the tie, right? He has a lot of friends that play there, a lot of connections that go there, right? It makes sense. However, this is a quarterback that when speaking to his camp, it's been very clear they want to be in a more traditional spread system. They want to be in the shotgun at all times. They want to be, quarterback-led and quarterback-driven system and all that good stuff. I think he wants to play more in a spread, and maybe Georgia this weekend might have sold him on the idea that, hey, you're going to have to play in a pro system when you get to Sundays anyway, so why not play in a pro system now while you're in college? Why not have full autonomy at the line of scrimmage to make really, really good high-level decisions and make those at the line of scrimmage? I think that's a great pitch and a great idea if that is the one that they are going with here towards Julian. But if I were Julian's agent or if I were involved in this recruitment process, I think this boils down to something really simple, right? Do you want to pursue early playing time and potential exposure, right? That's what Colorado is, and not exposure from a PR standpoint. Obviously, you're going to be talked about in the main news and media. You're going to be on First Take, people talking about you. It's a tremendous exposure play, but you're also exposing your quarterback behind that offensive line. They're 123rd in the country in sacks per game allowed. I think it's 3.4 sacks per game allowed, but you're going to get on the field really, really early there. And if you look at the Georgia end of things, no, playing time probably not promised early on unless you go out there and you're obviously the guy. And one thing about Georgia's history, I mean, they started a preferred walk-on for 2 straight years. So if that's not sign that the best guy plays, I don't know what is. So if Julian Lewis is the best guy at Georgia next year, if he goes there, then he'll more than likely start. However, the road to doing that at Georgia seems a little bit harder. I don't know where he ultimately ends up. Like I said, I lean Colorado. But here's what I also know about this. Even if he does end up at Colorado, I don't think it's guaranteed to finish at Colorado. You know what I mean?
I don't think anyone who signs anywhere is guaranteed to finish their career in this validity and this fluidity that we have of college football this year. I mean, if you're a 5-star and you don't see meaningful play, and we've seen starters. We've seen starters on big Power 4 championship-winning programs go elsewhere. I mean, there's no guarantee you're finishing your career in college anywhere.
Well, especially for someone where it seems like immediate playing time is what he's looking for. With the number of moving parts there are in college football at the quarterback position, whether it be people going to the draft or other people leaving a spot, I mean, it's hard to imagine a lot of quarterbacks are going to stick with the same school for their entire college career.
Any more thoughts?
No, that's
all right. We got a local hour loaded up for you. I want to give a quick shout out again to our friends over at BetUS. If you're looking for a new book this season, BetUS is indeed your answer. Head over to BetUS right now with the link in the description of this video. Use promo code YouTube150. You'll get 150% deposit match up to $2,000 on your first deposit and up to $2,000 and 125% deposit match on your next 2 deposits. Again, that's promo code YouTube150. Fastest deposit and withdrawal process in the industry over there at BetUS. Make sure you're heading over there and using that promo code YouTube150. We got a great show for you guys in the local hour planned. We got presser notes, film notes. We're going to talk about, obviously, Georgia and Tennessee, recap that football game. We're calling 1-800-FLOWERS today.
Oh, yes, we are.
Calling 1-800-FLOWERS today. We're going to be delivering some of those. Can UGA breathe a little bit right now? We'll talk about that. Positive and negative takeaways from this football game and Kirby Smart's comments about the playoff committee. Boys, I want to start with you guys' reactions from the football game yesterday or Saturday, because I gave 38 minutes of breakdown on this one football game yesterday. I don't know if there was a take of mine that I didn't cover. So let's hear what you guys thought.
I think that the first thing, like when Tennessee goes up 10-0 in this game, and people start hitting the panic button, like, oh my gosh, they're cruising on offense, they're putting up points. Our offense is sputtered now for 2 straight drives. Things are not looking great. It seems like we have the same issues that we've had all year with drop passes.
Takes were flying too.
Yeah, they absolutely were. But my immediate thought in that situation was, this is what Tennessee has done against Georgia for the last 4 years. For 4 straight years, they have scored first against Georgia. And that's what they did on Saturday. And if you remember correctly, how have those games gone over the last 4 years? Exactly how this one went on Saturday. I think that this is just how this game goes. Of Heupel and Tennessee's offense are always going to find a way to make sure that they get a strong opening, that they're going to find a way that they can get some easy points. They're going to get down the field as easy as possible, and that's what they did. They marched down the field. They've got a touchdown. They got a field goal. But after that, it's time to play ball, and it's time to play ball straight up. There's nothing else that you can pre-plan for what's about to happen in this football game, and I think that this game has continued to come down to which coordinator is better and which team is making better adjustments throughout the game. I think that Schumann was great as a coordinator. I thought he did a great job of choosing when he wanted to create havoc, when he wanted to send pressure, and how he wanted his defenders to play out in space. And then also I think Mike Bobo was coordinating with a plan throughout the entire game of one thing setting up another. We're going to do this so that we can set this up later on in the football game. I mean, you just watched like a masterpiece is what it felt like unfold. Like you turned every single page and it was right there in front of you. And I thought he did a great job of planning that game out.
You know, I watched that goofy-ass Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight the other day.
Oh, that made me sad.
And what's the man's name that was on the call? The boxer, Roy Jones. Roy Jones is out here talking about developing combinations the right way, right? Like we want to hit him with the jab, and then we want to hit him with the right cross, and then we want to hit him with the uppercut, right? Really tying the punches together. Bubba was boxing on Saturday night. That's exactly what he was doing. He was opening up with the jab, and then he's like, all right, I'm going to hit you with this jab a couple times, knowing that this jab is going to open up this ability to smack you down on the canvas with this left hook. And I thought and we're going to show you that on the board when I get into my film notes. That's exactly what happened on Saturday night. He had a tremendous, not just plan, but plans off the plan. Once this works and it stops working, we're going to hit him with the changeup off of this. I thought it was a tremendous job.
To me, this game was the epitome of what Georgia football has been in 2024, where things start out and it seems like nothing is really going right. Your offense isn't doing well. It's having 3 straight drives with a punt. Your receivers are dropping the balls. Tennessee seems to be marching the ball down the field, not just scoring, but marching it down the field methodically. They're up 10 points. And at the end, Georgia was able to overcome all of that. And they did it in the things that we said they needed to do. The offense played clean. There weren't any turnovers. They tried to give the ball away a couple of times, but at the end, no turnovers, had a couple of drops early on. The second one was you had to win the second half. We talked about that ad nauseum. It felt like if you win the second half, traditionally you beat this Tennessee team, and traditionally you have dominated the second half against Tennessee teams. They didn't score a single point in the second half, and then the third one was limit passing explosives. We knew that Dylan Sampson was going to get his. He had a 25-yard rushing touchdown. He was overall fairly effective throughout the night. Had a couple of broken tackles that had him dead to rights. Turns it into a 6-yard game. We knew stuff like that was going to happen, but Tennessee could not hit deep shots on you because then things would really start to go astray, and they never did. So shout out to the defense for not limiting that half.
Also, shout out to the defensive staff for making the adjustment of pulling Julian Humphrey immediately. And I talked about that yesterday. That is the type of football team where as soon as you see a corner panicking with the ball in the air, you got to get that guy off the field because they're going to start hunting him every time they throw it.
Well, and I think that too, what this game, like what really stuck out to me in this game of, you saw like Carson Beck in the offense. They were playing with a lot of confidence, almost like they knew like what they were calling was about to work every single time. They knew if we got to this spot and if the defense did this, like this was about to hit, and he threw every single ball that way, and the receivers started making plays. You know, after the first 2 drives, I had a couple drops, but after that, I mean, it was clean football for the most part. Outside of putting the ball on the ground, it was the clean game from that crew. But then you go on the flip side to Tennessee, and it felt like for them it was either Dylan Sampson or Peyton Lewis is going to have to break one off for us to find a way into the end zone and get some points on the board, or Nico's going to have to do some special stuff, which he was trying to do all night of creating on his own because Georgia was getting pressure in the pocket and just having to force his way down the field. And I thought it was really noticeable in this moment where Tennessee had a one-on-one opportunity down the sideline, and they tried a deep shot, but I didn't feel like anybody on that team was confident that that sucker was about to hit, partially due because they haven't been hitting deep shots all year, but also like it felt like they were forced to do it. Like they just had to do it. Like they didn't feel like that they had a perfect moment. They saw a great opportunity. They had been sitting on this one to finally draw it up and take a chance. It was, we got to try and find an explosive, so let's just drop Nico back, throw a one-on-one, and it wasn't even a contested ball at all. Like it wasn't even catchable or whatsoever. Like it just felt like they were just trying to force things because they felt like they were in trouble. Whereas Georgia, they were just cruising on offense.
All right, we broke down the offensive film for Georgia today. It's already over 12,000 views on YouTube right now. So if you haven't watched it, feel free to do so after tonight's live show. But I'm going to give you the rundown on what we learned from the film from Georgia's offense versus Tennessee's defense. First and foremost, I talked about this yesterday. I only confirmed it on tape. It wasn't just that Carson Beck avoided mistakes. It wasn't just that. He made 5 or 6 just Sunday throws that only happen at the highest levels of football. And it's what maximizes the machine. It's what takes an offense that's playing a good defense and has it go for 453 yards of total offense. It's because the quarterback not only, like I said, was protecting the football, getting the offense in the right plays, but was making big-time throws. There were several in that football game that really, really stood out. And the ball was exploding off of his hands. We talked about it on this network earlier in the year. He was certainly dealing with something. And I'm not going to say what he's clearly a healthier version of himself, in my opinion, based off the way the life of the football looks when you pay attention to it, especially in person. Ball is absolutely exploding right now. But offensive line-wise, 55 had a career night. Jared Wilson played his best game in a Georgia uniform on Saturday. And it was by no mistake. Bless you. It was by no mistake. Tennessee, more than any SEC defenses, leaves the midline of the offense over the center completely void. And when you have an offensive lineman like Jared Wilson in a role like that, we get to see him maximize his abilities, his talents. What is his number one talent that we've heard about all year long?
Speed, his athleticism.
His athleticism, right? So he is what we call uncovered all night long, which means all night long, he's able to move freely. Nobody in front of him, nobody over the top of him. He's not having to deal with a first-level defender before he works to the second, okay? He's running his track, and he's able to use his athleticism at a really high rate, and he played exceptionally well on Saturday. It was a great matchup for him. It's very clear to me that Tate Ratledge is getting healthy. It's starting to show. A couple of knockdowns in that football game, a couple of plays in that football game where he's actually able to finish the play. Now, there are some signs where he's clearly not healthy, right? There's a tipped pass in that football game where the only thing to keep a defensive lineman's hands down is accelerating your feet when the moment they go off the ground, right? When they go off the ground, it's time to engage, run our feet, and bury that son of a bitch so he never does it again. right? He never wants to do it again because we just landed on his rib cage and just collapsed his lungs, right? That's what we want to happen when that happens. But if I don't have foot fire, if I don't have the ability to do that, we just woke folks up at home. If I don't have the ability to do that because my ankle's a little banged up, I had tight ropes 5 weeks ago, then I'm going to have a struggle-some time having that happen. You can still see that show up on tape, but it's clear that he's getting back to himself to an extent. I thought Xavier Truss competed his backside off in this football game. He is a little bit exposed out there at tackle. It's not his Sunday position. I think he's going to be a guard on Sundays when he makes a roster. But he just wins with effort, man. He's constantly engaged to the echo of the whistle. At least he was on Saturday night. I thought Dylan Fairchild played okay. And I think he's got to understand that, buddy, you're the strongest guy on the field. Okay, you are. That's what we know about you. You're a 560-pound squatter. You're a 405-pound power cleaner. You bench press a brick oven. Like, we know you're really, really strong. So what you don't have to do is play over your toes. You don't have to play with extra body lean, man. You can catch guys and uproot them. That's what you can do. So as games start to settle in, as he starts to settle in football games, you can really see him start to play with his base. When you play nose over toes, you're going to be in a bad position early on in football games. And you can see this guy getting snatched down quite often early in football games. Happened against Auburn, happened against Texas. It happened this week against Tennessee. So he's got to avoid that. I think he played okay. He's got to play better. And he knows that. Monroe Freeling was the not the surprise, because we've seen it on tape. Monroe Freeling was the okay, that's special. And it's been all year we've been waiting for it. Hey, where's the first rounder here? I think Monroe Freeling put first round caliber promise on tape Saturday night. And I think that was obvious when you paid attention to it and really, really looked at it. It wasn't perfect. Technique wasn't 100% perfect. He got beat on some double moves occasionally, or not double moves. He overset a couple times. We talked about that on film. Kirby talked about it today. But when you're 6'7", when you've got, I think he's got 36-inch arms, when your wingspan's north of 83 inches, God put you on this earth to be really good at football and really good at tackle particularly. And when you combine all that with a tremendous athletic profile, you're going to have a really good football player. They were much better in truck toss. They were much better in their screen game. They were much better in the plays. They were much better in counter. They were much better in the plays that require athleticism from the tackle. All right, because Monroe Freeling at 6'7", 330 pounds is a little bit more capable in the athletic department than an Ernest Green. Ernest Green is a technician. He wins with good technique. He wins with good pad level. He wins with good feet. When you take an arm off of him, that makes it really, really hard for him to do all of those things that we just mentioned. So I thought, the tape that Monroe Freeling put on was tremendous, as was the tape that Oscar Delp put on. Now, it wasn't just, all right, it's a game plan for the tight ends today. I thought, and maybe I'm wrong, you watched it with me today, Oscar Delp looked faster and more explosive in this football game than he had all year, in my opinion. He was running away from defensive backs, not linebackers, defensive backs.
This was the most, that's why everyone said he's another Brock Bowers when they recruited him, type game that he's had since he's gotten to Georgia. Now, again, it's unfair to try to put him in the Brock Bowers category and say he's another Brock Bowers. I don't even think they're using him as a Brock Bowers type tight end this year. But what we saw on tape Saturday absolutely showed, he's absolutely capable of being an H.
To me, it felt like this was the first time all year where Delp was put in those situations where he was the one that they were designing these yak opportunities for and the big shots for. And so that's why it felt like, finally seeing what Oscar Delp was advertised for and what we knew he was capable of, because this is what we saw him do last year when Brock Bowers went down. This is the role that Oscar was playing, and this was the first game where it all came together, and he looked like the future NFL tight end that he is.
And you're right, that's what I think he is. Physically, that's what he's always been. He's been a 6'5", 245-pounder that runs 4.58. They don't make those on an assembly line anywhere. Those are rare human beings, and he played like a rare human being on Saturday night. Let's talk about some of these super chubs right quick while we're on it. Can the Tennessee game be a springboard to the Georgia offense, or was that a performance for just one game and the same problems will show up later? it can be a springboard from a level of confidence and from a level of continuity, right? Maybe they found their 5. Maybe they found the best rotation that they possibly could put together this year. I think that is their best 5, by the way, that they played on Saturday night when fully healthy. So I think that's also the key. Like, you can see on tape, there's signs that they're actually getting fully healthy, right? They don't have guards limping. The last 2 football games against Florida and Ole Miss, I could show you the tape. Micah Morris is playing on one leg during that Florida game, as was Tate. Tate had to be pulled out of that game. Tate had to be pulled out of the Ole Miss game. Like, they're finally getting healthy at the top end of their roster, and they don't have a bottom end of their roster at the offensive line position. We talked about that ad nauseum last week. Ken from Cummings says, love the show. Does UGA's O-line drive our success to a natty this season? Defense is great, but I believe offense drives a team to a natty. Got to score points. Love Brooks, the doctor, and Mr. Grumpy Kirby. So now you're not only lazy, but you're grumpy.
Grumpy now? What the hell?
I think you're just a whipping boy.
Apparently.
Somebody's got to be. Have a stern chin, okay? Be willing, all right?
Grumpy? What the fuck?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know, but you're just wear it. Wear it with a smile. Wear it with a smile and a mustache.
If I wear the smile, they won't think I'm grumpy anymore.
You're right. Stern look.
There it is.
Give me Kirby on a Tuesday presser. On to this question. Obviously, you have to have a really good offensive line to get to a national title. I don't think you have to have, like, the Joe Moore Award-winning offensive line to get to a national title. You've never won one, and you've won 2 national titles. So I don't think you necessarily have to have it. But what you can't have is them be a liability. They got to have passable grades. Also, I thought the coordinator did a tremendous job helping him out, or helping these guys out on Saturday. I talked about earlier, I thought Bobo was boxing. Let's take it to the board and talk about what we're talking about here. There was one formation that they created 3 really big plays off of on Saturday night, and it was this one right here. We're not going to draw, just envision 2 wide receivers over here on the other side of the field. Make sure my mic is unmuted. It is indeed. So we're going to call this exit motion from Arian Smith. They hit 3 plays on this one. The first one was the first touchdown to Oscar Delp. As they leaked out Arian Smith from hiding behind the tackle, you saw the safety kind of bump his alignment out over the top of number 4. Number 4 on the snap ran a little bender. They sent number 11 vertical out here. The linebacker up underneath turned and ran. You threw this ball up and over him for a touchdown. That was the first play, or first scoring play out of this formation that they ran on Saturday. Now, being a boxer, it's not just about having a good jab, right? We open with that jab to come back with a left hook or come back with a big power punch, right? So what was the power punch off of this? Let's get this nice and clean again for you guys. So they ran it again a little bit later. A little bit later, they sent the motion out and they ran a stop screen. Blocked the number 1 corner out there with Oscar Delp. Ran the tunnel screen. This is when Arian Smith fumbled the football. About a 15-yard gain right here. Arian falls back on it. Offensive line does a great job pursuing down the field, chasing the ball, allowing that to happen, right? So that was the second play, all right? Hit him with a good power punch right there. Now, the big uppercut later on in the football game, how did they come back and finish it off? Well, they ran the same action, leaked him out, pretended to run the stop, and ran what we call the fox around here. Ran Oscar Delp up the sideline, hit it for about a 40-yard explosive down on the Georgia sideline later on in the football game. So it's not just about, right, getting one good play out of something. It's about designing one good play out of something and having multiple cards up off of that to continue to pull those rabbits up out of the hat. I thought this was a tremendous job by Bobo, particularly, developing something that he knew was going to work and continuing to build up off of that in his offensive game plan. The other thing that he did in the red zone, I thought was incredible, right? He went tackle over. So he took the left tackle, put the Y right here, and then put Monroe Freeling off the ball over here in their trips bunch formation on the goal line. They had the Y and the H right here. This was Jurasic. That was Oscar Delp. Last week, when they had this same formation in the red zone against Ole Miss, they ran truck toss off of it, right? They had the quarterback right here. Ball was on the right hash on the 6-yard line. They get a touchdown off of it to Nate Frazier last week with the tackle over. All right, 1 week later, they show the same look, all right, with a different tackle in there with Monroe Freeling, go tackle over, and what do? They run Y leak up off of it for another touchdown to Oscar Delp. So this is not only coordinating and developing plans within one singular game plan, this is putting a little nugget in the week before and developing a winner up off of it for the next week and saving it for the next week. I thought it was a tremendous job by the coordinator.
So you could say that Mike Bobo hit him with the left, hit him with the right.
All night. All night. Fight night. But no, I thought he did a tremendous job out there doing that. Now, the other thing that we picked up on film was the widening of the splits. Yeah, I'm lock in right now. Lock the in right now, because I promise you, I guarantee it, no other channel is going to be able to give you this one because no one's watching it as closely as we do around here. They widen their splits on obvious passing downs. Why? Why would they do that?
Push that wide nine
Because
out.
they're playing wide 9.
Push that wide 9 out. That's exactly why. We watched film all week last week on Tennessee's defense, and they had James Pierce and they had my man Josephs. I think Anthony Josephs. Anthony Josephs out in wide 9 techniques, meaning if there were a tight end there, he would be lined up all the way outside of that guy. Except they do it when there's no tight end attached on obvious passing downs because they got great speed rushers that they want to create some havoc with. So these wide 9s, what's the best way to combat that? Well, if you want to line up all the way out there, we'll bump our split just a little bit. Not only are we increasing the distance that it takes for you to get there, but we're increasing the time that it takes you to get there. Also, they were a big TE team. They like to send the tackle out and send the end back in after that wide 9. So what's the best way to do that? Let's spread out a little bit. Give ourselves a more time and more space to be able to trade these things off. I thought the widening of the splits made a tremendous difference in this football game, and it's not some cockamamie theory I've gotten. I saw it on tape, and when I see things on tape that I need confirmation on, I go seek that confirmation, and that's exactly what I got. Yes, they did strategically widen their splits on specific downs in this football game.
I mean, this is honestly something that you can do. Any team can do this at Tennessee because it lengthens the distance you have to go to the tackling point. Like, it's a very simple adjustment that you can make, but it's also more effective. You spread the offensive line out, it makes it hard for the people on the edges to be effective. It
seems simple, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's simple in concept, obviously.
And we talked about the other, brilliant offensive coordinating kind of wrinkle that they put in, which was the no huddle on non-converted second downs, not allowing that defense to sub and get guys onto the field and develop a pass rush was.
And it's reasons like that why it's so frustrating for the common fan to say, Mike Bobo sucks. All it does is run screens, or it's pass, or it's run, pass on third down. We're so predictable. Like, you're not seeing the nuances that this offense is going through. And if you were, and then you want to give criticisms to Mike Bobo, you're more than welcome to. But the people who actually have gone in depth to what this offense is doing, the criticisms really aren't there. It's usually that you find that the players and the injuries have been what's been really hurting your season offensively.
Continuing the notes, I felt like wide receivers still have a lot to improve on, particularly catching the football. But that was their best separation game they've had all year. They created separation for 4 quarters.
Well, they had time to do it, too.
Yeah. So I thought that was awesome. Jonathan, we were watching Mississippi State's offense versus Tennessee's defense last week, and I made a proclamation that if I were ever an offensive coordinator, day one install, I would install this one run scheme. What was it?
H-back insert.
H-back insert. And I said, you know what? I would do this because there's so many teams that run even fronts. They leave the midline of their offense completely exposed. And I was sitting there like, well, we would be an H-back insert football team. And I said on air, Georgia's never ran it. In my years, I've never seen Georgia run H-back insert. They're a wide zone, or they're a split zone team. They'll use tight ends on counter. They'll pull these guys. But they never insert that H-back right down the midline. Never do it. What'd they do this weekend?
They did it.
Ran H-back insert.
In a very similar situation that Mississippi State did that hit for a big one. And it hit for a big one.
It hit for an 11-yard gain.
Yeah. While you're backed up in your own end.
So maybe they listen. Maybe they listen. But I don't even care if they do. What it proves to me, and like I said on the film study, it proves to me that I'm seeing it the right way. And that's the only way to get confirmation. If you see something and you break it down and you're like, man, I think this would be a good idea. This would work against this defense. And then that week, that coordinator does exactly that. You're seeing it well. You're seeing the game like you're supposed to. And I appreciate getting those little they're like little trophies for me, man. When I see them on tape, I get the goosies because I know I'm right. And that's not like oh man, Georgia's gonna win this football game type of take. Yeah. That's a really, really deep cut, man. So yeah. Sometimes it's good to pat yourself on the back every once in a while. So my therapist told me.
You have a therapist?
Yeah. And I watched the movie Rebound growing up.
We just don't get access to it.
I was gonna say, this must
You
be
never
like,
seen Rebound?
I've seen
It's not what I was
Rebound, but I
talking
didn't know you
about.
had a therapist.
Anyways, Kirby Preston, y'all have any more questions about the offensive performance?
No, I think we
No.
really hammered it home that this was the cleanest performance you've seen offensively outside of the second half against Clemson in week 1.
Normally, I rat-a-tat-tat Kirby's press conference, but I didn't do that today. Today, I came away with a Kirbyism that I thought was tremendous. Every time I hear one of these things, I'm like, man, you think about the game of football totally different than most of us humans. Turnovers. They're a big talking point in not only this year's Georgia football team, but in football in general, right? Turnover rate. How many turnovers are we creating? How many turnovers do we have offensively? Turnovers. And I've never heard it explained the way that it was today in Kirby's press conference. He was asked about turnovers and stuff like that offensively. And here's what he said. He said there is a difference between takeaways and exposures. Takeaways happen. Interceptions happen. Goofy fumbles happen. Teams ripping the ball out from you. They happen, right? But as long as we got good ball security, we like to credit the defense there that we're playing. We don't like to criticize what we're doing offensively because it just happens. It's the way football is. That's why turnover margins are very up and down. However, you can't control turnovers, but what you can control is your exposures. All right, and what are these? These are moments as a ball carrier where I go to make a move and I extend the ball away from my body. Exposure. That's bad. Turnovers are bad. Exposures are worse because they lead to turnovers, right? We throw a ball late. That's an exposure. We can't do that. We throw a ball into double coverage when we shouldn't. That's an exposure. We shouldn't do that, right? We can limit our exposures. We can't limit our takeaways. I'd never really heard it explained this way. And he said, I'm not worried about our turnovers right now because I think we're doing well in the exposure department. We can do better, but I think we're doing well in the exposure department. What we're not doing good and what we're not doing at a high rate right now is taking advantage of the exposures that the other offense gives us, right? We are not creating enough turnovers right now defensively, said Kirby Smart, because we're not taking advantage of these exposures. And I'd never heard it said like that, guys.
That is a very unique perspective on that. And at least for me personally, watching the Tennessee game, I just felt like from the second quarter until the game was over, it's like Tennessee's about to turn the ball over. Either Nico's about to throw a pick, someone's about to get a strip sack, someone's about to put the ball on the ground. I felt like the entire football game that they were about to force a turnover, and it just never happened, which, granted, you didn't need one to win that game, but it just felt like even in those moments where it seemed like it was going to be inevitable that they didn't get one.
All right, I want to take a quick moment, and this is going to transition us into our playoff discussion here, boys. JB says, I have a feeling this playoff model changes next year. We need clarity on expectations from the committee. I think some fan bases are going to end up really salty and likely for good reason. Thoughts? I won't give you mine. Kirby, let's talk about Coach Smart's thoughts on this Saturday because he had quite a bar.
Yeah, so after obviously the Tennessee game ends, Lauren Rutledge is interviewing Kirby Smart, and one of the questions she asked is, what do you think you showed the playoff committee with this win? And his answer was, I don't know. I don't know because I don't know what they're looking for right now. I mean, and that really cemented it home to me that the best coach in college football, we all agree, one of the top teams in college football, does not know what the playoff committee is expecting of them right now. And it just hammers home that it's so unclear at this moment what is valued the most by this playoff committee. Is it the wins? Is it your strength of schedule? Is it what you've done on the field? Is it the eye test? Is it a combination of both? People say it's an amalgamation of both, but I mean, it doesn't really show that. The rankings don't consistently show that. So I mean, Kirby Smart has basically called out the committee and say, where's the incentive for my team playing this hard schedule when you've got the Indianas and the Boise States and the other teams of the world that are in the top 10 that have not had to play the schedule I have, but I'm being punished for it. It felt like a very, very, in the way he does it, a professional call out almost.
Oh, he doubled down in the press.
Yeah, I thought he really hammered it home in the press conference. Almost felt like he wanted to let it marinate. He gave it on the football field, and then he's like, oh, yeah, this one's going to bang. I got this one down pat. And I think he closed the press conference out with this one. And he says the same thing of, I have no idea what they're looking for. But when he brings up the eye test, he's like, these guys say they're using this eye test, but they're not even going to the games. They're just watching the games from a TV, and you can't see these types of things watching it through your TV screen of the crowd environment, what it was like to go on the road to Ole Miss or anything like that. And he's like, so my team drops 9 spots after losing to Ole Miss, but I'm sure after today that we beat a really good team in their eyes that we're going to shoot right back up the rankings. Like, there's no consistency, and you truly have no idea of what this committee is looking for.
I'll tell you which committee does have a good feel for the University of Georgia. And you've seen them in the press box almost every single game and wondering, why the hell are these people here? The fucking Cheese Bowl seen Georgia play 15 times this year. Every time I get in a press box, the Cheez-It Bowl committee's up there with orange blazers and a damn Cheez-It logo in their corner. And I'm like, why are you here? They are not playing in the Cheez-It Bowl. But Tennessee might be returning to it.
The Cheez-It Bowl people consistently dressed up very nice, enjoying a free football game.
You know what? I think that's what I want to retire and be. I want to be a bowl game committee chairman for like a decent bowl that, you know, goes to SEC games every week.
Dude,
but don't send me to Starkville to watch Mississippi State versus Toledo.
I will do the Pop-Tart Bowl for name a price, dude. I will go to all the games and say,
brother,
they're worthy of Pop-Tart.
As much as I love a good Pop-Tart Bowl, do you know the types of teams you're going to have to go watch for the Pop-Tart Bowl?
Dude.
You've been watching a whole lot of Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
Bring it, dude.
That's why Peach Bowl's superior.
Bring the Pop-Tart
It's in
Bowl.
the state of Georgia.
We're going to make the Pop-Tart Bowl great.
I swear, every time I walk in, I'm not in the press box very much anymore, but every time I walk up there, fucking Cheez-It Bowl, watching Georgia play, and I'm like, why are y'all here? Maybe you need to send some notes to the College Football Playoff Committee. Also, another goofy-ass reason why athletic directors don't need to be on that committee. Aren't athletic directors busy enough on Saturdays? Do y'all not see what they do on Saturdays?
He did also in the Laura Rogers interview. She goes, I invite anyone on that committee to come down and play in one of these environments.
Yeah.
Kind of a shot at Michigan.
Definitely.
You deserve it.
No, I don't understand it, and I don't think they do either. I think it's ultimately going to get remodeled. There will be something that they're not going to allow, and maybe they do. Maybe they want this. Maybe they want everybody up in arms because they're talking about it. You know,
probably.
Maybe that's what it is. I don't know what it is, but the consistency is 100% lacking from these committee members. So I'm with you on that one. I think we have one more super chub that we need to hit. If the game were today, who do you think would be the hardest / scariest hypothetical rematch game for UGA between Bama, Texas, and Ole Miss? You already know my answer.
Yeah.
And you guys are there too?
Yeah.
It's Bama.
Okay. Yeah, it's Bama.
Because, I mean, Bama's strength is one of your weaknesses. As far as a mobile quarterback that can seemingly do it all when he's playing at his best.
And he seems to play like a superhero against you.
Yeah, at his best, he's
time.
unstoppable. At his best, Jalen Miller's unstoppable. The problem is he's the Jekyll and Hyde of the SEC, where one day it's, hey, I'm going to look like prime Cam Newton, and then the other it's going to be not really.
All right, so after this massive win this weekend, 31-17 at home against the 7th-ranked Tennessee Volunteers, can the Georgia Bulldogs officially breathe a little bit?
Yes.
You can, but why would you?
Get healthy?
Breathe as in, like, yes, take a, sigh of relief. Okay, we got past the thick of our schedule, but just roll through these next 2 weeks and then you can breathe. Like, take the deep exhale of, okay, we've gotten through that part of the season. I mean, I don't want to be that guy. You're not completely out of the woods yet. Georgia Tech could very well play spoiler to your season. I know. I think you beat
You about
both.
to shit on the wasp nest right now.
I am. I think that this is getting really overblown a little bit. I think that, I hear Georgia fans, I know what you're doing. I understand what you're doing, Christian. But I personally have been hearing people say, oh, man, Georgia Tech, that's no sleeper game, man. I think they might give them a tough test. I don't think they will. Georgia Tech's defense is not good. They can't tackle. This is in Stanford, another night game. It's senior night. It's on a Friday. Georgia fans are going to be waking up for this game. It's the last maybe home game of the entire year. You're telling me that Georgia Tech is going to walk in there, and I just don't buy it, man. I think that Georgia is going to handle business like they will. I don't think it's one of these games that's like, it's a sleeper game, man. They're going to sneak up on them. I don't think it's that.
I don't buy it either. I just feel like you would be better served at taking the momentum you have from this game, carrying it for the next 2 weeks, and then taking your exhale and saying, okay, let's focus on the playoff. Let's maybe focus on the SEC championship if you get in, but let's kind of recoup, regather, and get ourselves healthy again. I get that you can absolutely afford a breakdown against UMass. Let's be fair. That's an automatic W. But
So Kirby has obviously been very vocal about the importance of the SEC championship game and how there's no posturing and we play the next snap and we play the next football game. Did you see Lane Kiffin's quotes today?
Mm-mm.
Lane Kiffin put voice to the fact that apparently SEC coaches are talking off the record in group chats about how that none of them want to play in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, because the 5th spot looks pretty freaking easy right now.
Well, not even that.
You're going to get the 6th.
Not even that.
Still.
You saw what
Sign me up.
You saw what the committee did last year to the team that lost in the SEC championship game.
Well,
They got punished and they got pushed out.
Won the ACC championship game.
I'm just like, they punished you last year. You'll get punished again this year.
Mm-hmm.
You can't opt out of that, can you?
Heck no.
You're laughing. You can't? You can't just be like,
that
I
would
wanna
be
play.
an utter disgrace.
That would be.
If you opt out of the SEC championship game, get out of the conference.
Yeah, that's such
straight up.
That's such
leave.
A slippery
We don't
slope
want
to
you
do
here.
that.
I mean, come on. Vandy and Arkansas would put up a good football game in that thing.
You opt out of that. Get out of here. You want to talk about how this conference prides themselves on playing the best of the best every single week, and it's an absolute grind. And you want to back out of the biggest game of the conference? Get out of here.
Just a thought.
Bad thought.
Where do y'all want to go next?
Let's get these flowers out. We're running out of time.
Oh, flowers. Come on. 1-800-FLOWERS. What do you got for us?
All right, first one I want to give my flowers to is Josh Brooks, whoever's running the in-game ops, because
Kirby dropped her name.
Yeah, I could remember it. Yeah. I think that.
Well, whoever you are, shout out to you, because Georgia fans had some criticisms coming into the season, throughout the regular season, of, hey, the Georgia fan experience, the game day experience feels a little dated. It feels like there needs to be a flair to it. There needs to be kind of something extra. My God, that's the most live environment I've been in as a Georgia fan. I've been to every home game since 2020. So, I mean, props to them. The fireworks were amazing. The blackout was sick. The environment as a whole. In halftime breaks, I don't know if people saw us on TV, they had hype men actually chanting, getting the crowd to do chants and stuff, keeping people engaged. It wasn't just 5 minutes of silence every time they went off air. Like, there were things being done to keep the crowd in this game.
Are you comfortable doing what I did yesterday? Are you comfortable calling Kirby Smart a liar?
Oh, for what? What do you lie
For
about?
doing the night games aren't any different, in my opinion. Take. Because I think he's either full of shit, wrong, or lying. Because they are definitely different.
They are.
There's no doubt they're definitely different, in my opinion.
But no, I mean, it was an incredible environment. So flowers to whoever runs the show for that. Fireworks were awesome.
Who else is getting flowers, Kirby?
I've got one more person who's giving flowers. I want to give Brett Thorson flowers. Hang on. Not only has Brett Thorson been one of the most consistent punters in SEC history, he's been great for Georgia, but he really, in my opinion, probably saved the game for Georgia on Saturday.
He did.
You're at the back end of the first quarter. You have a punt. Boo Carter is going to score if Brett Thorson does not make that tackle. If Boo Carter scores, Tennessee goes up 14-0 on this game. Now, obviously, they were able to come back, squander that lead, make it a close game in the end, and at halftime tie it up, ultimately pull away. But 14-0 feels a lot different than 10-0 at home. And I think Brett Thorson deserves flowers for what he did on Saturday.
Hell yeah. He got his flowers today. Kirby apparently played a joke on the team. Said, I've been pissed off with the way we're tackling lately. I'm going to bring in a professional tackler. And then he brought in Thorson into the meeting.
Yeah, there's actually an article about that on Dogs Daily if you guys want to go read it. So,
Bangarang. You wrote that during the show?
Yeah.
This guy.
I got to beat the laziness allegations, man. And now I got to smile more to beat the grumpy allegations.
I mean, dude, if people knew what our producers do during the show while talking, you would never, ever question their abilities on this air. So, yeah. Those two dudes sit next to us, or sit next to me for a reason. All right, it's not because they just have good takes, and I like their company.
Fun hangs.
Yeah, good hangs.
I'm giving flowers to the two-way demon. Chaz Chambliss.
Dude.
He gave Travis Hunter a run for his money on Saturday.
Oh, dude.
Making plays on defense, doing what he always does.
Getting away with a hold on goal line, doing what he always does.
Don't start that. Don't even. I'll cook you right.
He was bear hugging it.
If you watch the play, it does not look like holding in my opinion.
You're right.
Not was Chaz Chambliss being on offense was great and kind of surprising. He was smiling when they scored. Chaz Chambliss smiling.
I have a photo of him leaving the field smiling.
Dude, what's going on?
Something in the air.
Something in the
I think
water.
he saw a
Dude.
12-pointer in the stands.
That would make Chaz Chambliss smile, dude.
Like a flock of doves or what do they shoot? Duck? Shoot duck, not doves.
Doves.
You're not shooting doves. Are you? You shoot doves?
Some people do.
No? I don't know.
I thought.
Not a hunter.
No.
I don't bird hunt, so.
Shooting doves. It's quail.
Quail. That's the one.
Who else getting flowers?
Oscar Delp. He certainly deserves his flowers.
Yep.
I kept thinking that it was going to be Lawson Lucky that was going to have the big breakout game from the tight end room, but I would say that the entire tight end room had a really good day. Ben Urosic might have the biggest glow up of the entire season on Georgia's roster. He has improved so much, and I think you really saw that over the last 3 games. Especially, and I think you should have known too, when he starts becoming involved in Texas, and everybody's like, "Why in the heck are we drawing up shots for Ben Urosic? Have we seen what he's done over the last few weeks?" I think that should have been more so a sign of this staff is starting to see something in him at practice where they feel like he's ready for these moments, and he proved that on Saturday. He made big plays. Delp made big plays. Lawson Lucky made some plays.
It's also the exact example of what it looks like when a player's playing while he's thinking and when a player's playing like he's free. He's playing free right now. He's not having to think about what he's doing. Very early on, you go back to that Kentucky football game, he's like late off the ball. He's late to move. He's late to react because he's thinking. Like, what am I doing? Am I taking the right steps? Ooh, am I motioning on this play? Ooh, what's my route on this play? Ooh, if that guy goes this way, if the field's open. There's a lot of thinking going on, and you can't play that way.
Not at all.
Then I'll also give some flowers to Nitro Tuggle. I think that him being inserted in, now he was inserted into the game before Dylan Bell went down, but I think it more so was emphasized when Dylan Bell had to be taken out of the game. Nitro gets deployed. He makes a pretty big play in the football game. It was refreshing, I think, to see a young wide receiver in this unit look like he's ready to play.
So there's a lot of different types of bouquets that you can buy. You can buy the Honey, I Love You just because it's Tuesday Joanna Man package, right? You can just buy a nice little 12 dozen or a little dozen because, you know, you love your wife. And then there's the anniversary bouquet, right? And it's slightly bigger. There's the birthday bouquet, maybe a Valentine's Day bouquet, and they start to go. And then there's the sorry, honey, I cheated on you with your sister bouquet. And it covers the entire, the entire living room space.
2 dozen roses.
Georgia fans owe Carson Beck a sorry, I cheated on you bouquet. Oh, that's what they owe him.
And to be fair, I was on the social medias after the game. They were being very nice to Carson Beck. It was nice to see.
I would almost disagree with that because I put out a tweet saying that a lot of people owed Carson Beck an apology, and I had nothing but, why should we apologize to him? He sucked all year. One game doesn't change it much.
You got to let the people come to it naturally. I've learned anything about it. If you tell someone how they have to feel and what they have to do, they're immediately going to say, no, I'm not doing that. If you say, hey, apologize to Carson Beck because you were mean to him, they're not going to do it. If you let the game flow and then people say, you know what, maybe we were a little hard on Carson Beck this year. He played a really good game. Well, I'm glad he's back.
To be honest, there's only one group of people that I was talking to about that crowd, and it was the people saying he needed to be benched. Mm-hmm. That was the only crowd I was specifically trying to out. Like,
no, you're right.
If you want to criticize the quarterback for turning the ball over, whatever, you have some valid points there. But people saying that Carson Beck didn't need to be the starter anymore at Georgia, flat out wrong. You definitely need to apologize to that man.
Kirby called media members, he didn't call them stupid. He called their questions stupid.
Yeah, stupid questions. Yes, he did.
I feel that way about people who thought he should be replaced. You're stupid. So there's that. Anybody else getting flowers? Offensive line got theirs plenty.
Mm-hmm.
Interior defensive line deserves a shout.
Yeah.
They played great. Every photo I have of Dylan Sampson is him running into a brick wall of white jerseys and then trying to bounce.
Yep.
There was one play where there was a crease created, and no shit, the greatest back in the SEC right now hit it for 27 yards to the door.
Let's also give Chauncey Bowen some flowers here because, I mean, he didn't have a massive impact on the game by any means. He wasn't like a game breaker, but him being there and him being able to carry the rock effectively, very, very, very good for that running back.
Jonathan, you watched it this morning with me. How many yards does a healthy Trevor Etienne have in that football game?
I said it during the game.
A lot.
Trevor Etienne in that football game goes for a lot.
Buddy, there were creases in that defense most of the running plays.
I agree, but look, the fact that you had a body to put out
you
there.
Serviceably performed at running back this weekend.
Good job.
And 2 true freshmen giving you winning performances, that's enough.
Exactly.
That's plenty. That's enough to get flowers.
That's what you get flowers for.
Might have built you a statue if you'd have put up the numbers that you should have.
You won the game.
You did. Positive takeaway. What's your biggest positive takeaway? I got one right now.
I would also say that Smile Munden also deserves the flowers.
Yes, he had a good game.
Big comeback game for him.
We're getting asked about signing day show in the chat. Our signing day super show got messed up this year for some reason.
Yeah, it's
What
the
was
one.
it?
No, so it's not this year. I don't think it's the. Is it this year or next year?
I
Because
can't remember.
Next
I
year
thought
they
it
moved the
was
time?
this year.
they did it like it's not a.
It's like a
Something
whole
happened.
week.
It's not a. It's like a whole week. It's not a 1 day
Okay.
thing. But I don't think it's this. I think it's
So I
2025
think we were
signing day.
saying like just on the
This
final
is the
day.
2025 signing day.
No, like the year
It's for
2025.
26's class.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to confirm that though.
So we might have to do something where it's like, just show up. Brooksy's got a 4-hour show planned. We're going to do a super signing day show for the class. But maybe we don't do it like we did in years past where it's like, oh, so-and-so just popped. Let's break him down.
Yeah.
That's what we've done in years past. This year, yeah, I think it is one of the best things that we do, in my opinion, because no one else is willing to do it because it requires a lot of work. The idea that you're going to sit there and break down all 28 football players, that's a tall task and a heavy order. If you haven't noticed, there's only one person in this beat that even does as much content as we do, and it's Brandon Adams. And
Shout out, B.
my God, dude, you grind. You're a solo guy going 3 hours, 3.5 hours a day, Monday through Friday. Buddy, you're an Iron Man. All right. Everybody else, I'm going to walk you down when it comes to work ethic, but I ain't got BA and I ain't never going to get BA, and I'm okay with that. But the rest of you, we just going to outwork you.
Also, one of the nicer guys on the beat.
Tremendous.
Always pleasant to talk
Yeah.
to.
a tremendous human.
Shout out, BA. Good.
The
dude.
only I'll never let you call me BA until he retires. I'll always correct you. Normally, it's gotten kind of inundated lately with the BA, and I get that. But yeah, no, shout out to that guy. He grinds. All right, positive takeaway. I've got one for you. Biggest positive takeaway in this football game. How about Georgia coming out laying a damn dud offensively for 3 possessions? Normally, that's end of story. End of she wrote. That's like, oh, they're just going to suck on offense today. Ball rolling. Got it going. And then just 453 yards of total offense. Like, that is a massive difference from what we've seen from this offensive unit. Every single time they've struggled in the first quarter, normally they struggle for 4. Particularly if, like, they're struggling with one specific thing, like not being able to complete deep balls. All right? They ultimately got that ball moving and got that ball rolling offensively. I thought that was a huge positive takeaway.
Yeah, and that was my positive takeaway too, is you overcame once again. Like, it felt like at the start of this game when Arian Smith dropped that deep ball and then you had a Dom Lovett drop and it was just punt after punt, it felt very much like, oh boy, here we go. This is going to be the offensive game we have. But no, you overcame it. You got rolling on offense and it turned out great for you.
Yeah, offense had a complete day, is what I said. I said after the game when we were doing our walk on the field little cut video of this is the most complete game that they've played since Clemson, I would say. Of the cleanest brand of football you could play where you didn't turn the ball over, and once you got enough possessions in, it just started rolling for you, and the other defense couldn't stop you.
Any other positive takeaways?
Oh, defense continues to dominate Tennessee. Like, if you ever walk into this matchup, like, especially as long as Georgia's defense looks the way that it does, I don't think you should ever be worried about a Tennessee offense with this type of Georgia defense.
I mean, that was where I was most right in this football game, was that Georgia's defense is, by its ideology, its base rules, its concrete floor on that house, it is built on stopping the run with light counts. That's what it is. It's built on stopping the run, making it impossible for you to not be one-dimensional. And this football team comes in being one-dimensional. I just thought it was a bad matchup for them. And that's exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the main positive of this is, one, you're back in the playoff race, obviously, but two, you really forced the narrative of this. What is the committee looking for? Kirby Smart forced it. You beating Tennessee forced it because, yeah, you're a 2-loss team, but you're outside the top 10. You have one of the toughest strength of schedules, and you have 2 top 10 wins at this point. So it really forced the narrative. What are we looking for? What are we looking at? And I think that's going to bode well for the future, at least, of getting some form of consistency from the committee.
All right, Brian Harville is saying, who were the secret recruits that visited Saturday? So this, I think he's referring to a Patreon post that I made, what was that, Wednesday?
Yeah.
Wednesday, I put out the list, and at the top of the list on Patreon, I said, there are some visitors that I was told to keep off of this public list from Georgia. As soon as I posted that, Julian Lewis's camp, I guess, let everybody know he was going to be at Georgia. So that was one of the secrets that got kind of blown out of the water. We also reported on Wednesday that DJ Pickett was going to be in town. Was it DJ his first name?
Mm-hmm.
DJ Pickett was going to be in town, the 6'4", 5-star corner out of Florida that I believe is committed elsewhere right now. LSU's committed to LSU, so says the research department team. We put that out on Wednesday, and Friday the noise from other beat reporters was what? Not other beat reporters, national recruiting reporters was what?
Oh, that he's going to Florida. I mean, on Wednesday, that's what it was. He was being put on, he's taking an official visit to Florida, and then it wasn't until game day where they got the wave of, he's actually going to Georgia. He's not going to Florida.
Pays to be over on Patreon. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin if you want to join over there. But no, the secret ones, I like to remain secret. Like when I'm asked not to talk about something, I don't talk about it. It's kind of the key to keeping sourcing, you know, protect one's source.
Amen.
Hey, what a great show here on tonight's broadcast. Appreciate you for being here. If you haven't hit that thumbs up button, what are you doing? Go ahead and do it. If you haven't hit subscribe,
please hit subscribe.
Please do. I got a birthday tomorrow. I'll turn 30 in about 3 hours, and I wanted 40,000 subscribers before I turned 30, and I don't know if it's going to happen, but you damn sure can make it. You damn sure can make it happen. So go ahead and do that for me on your way out. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. We got a lot of content planned for tomorrow. I've got to go study